Chapter 1085. The Two Black-Bellied Little Beasts. 1. Not only that, before Lung Ruoxue and the rest could recover from their shock, the second wave of flames surged out. This time, it was even more spectacular and violent than the previous time. The scorching flames burned half the sky red. Heavens! The eruption of such a small volcano is already so terrifying. What if it was a bigger volcano? Feng De looked at the soaring flames that were even taller than him and said in a speechless manner, "The eruption of this volcano is a little abnormal. Logically speaking, such a small volcanic eruption shouldn't have such a great power." The great elder asked in bewilderment, "Should we go in and take a look?" Feng De asked like a curious baby. "We must go, but we can't go in now. Let's go back first." "We'll go in after the volcano erupts," First Elder said after some thought. If they entered now, they would be in danger, because this volcano was too abnormal compared to the one in his memory. "Well, let's go back first." Lung Ruoxue nodded as well. If they entered now, they would probably be turned into a part of the lava. With that, Lung Ruoxue summoned the little peacock. Everyone sat on the back of the little peacock and returned to the floating cloud city. When they returned to the tent they had set up, Lung Ruoxue and the rest began to prepare lunch. However, the little peacock was lying on the ground with a depressed look. Lung Ruoxue looked at the unhappy little peacock in amusement and asked, "Little peacock, what's wrong?" "Master, my feathers are burnt." The little peacock was depressed. "Oh, my beautiful and dazzling feathers. It was gone just like that." "It's fine. Eat this. I guarantee that your feathers will be intact." Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she took out a pure white pill from her bracelet. Just as she was about to hand it to the little peacock, a hand suddenly reached out and snatched it away. "What kind of pill is this? Let me see." Liyue held the pill in her hand and looked at it. Then her eyes widened and she said in a speechless manner, "You actually used a saint-level healing pill to grow feathers for this little peacock? It's really too extravagant." Even in the immortal realm, the price of a saint-level pill was not low. After all, not only were they difficult to concoct, their cost was also extremely high. It was not something that ordinary deities could afford. Thus, saint-level pills had become a hot commodity. "Are you going to use divine-level medicinal pills?" Lung Ruoxue asked back with an innocent look. "Just use this." Liyue took out a pill and threw it into the little peacock's mouth. The pill that Lung Ruoxue took out was naturally kept in his storage ring and confiscated by him. "Master, done." After eating the pill, the little peacock stood up and walked to Lung Ruoxue's side. It rubbed against her affectionately and then lay down beside its master. "Yes." Lung Ruoxue patted the little peacock's head gently. She did not express any suspicion towards Liyue's act of pocketing her pill. After all, even if Liyue took the pill away, she would not be able to find out anything about it. All of a sudden, Lung Ruoxue felt a disturbance in the space. She was overjoyed and said to everyone, "I'm tired, I'm going to take an afternoon nap." I say, little girl, we haven't even had lunch yet, why are you taking a morning nap?" The first elder said, somewhat speechless. After being with them for the past few days, he had also discovered that these people were very fond of sleeping. They would always sleep at any time. So, she really didn't know where they got so much sleep from. "Shue, I'll sleep with you," the demon quickly said. However, he was secretly guessing in his heart, what's the matter with Shue? He knew that Shue's so-called sleep was just an excuse. She was actually planning to go into the space. Out of curiosity, he naturally had to follow her in to take a look. "You still have to accompany me." First Elder was even more speechless. What the hell was this? He had to sleep in broad daylight, and someone had to accompany him. So, why didn't he receive such good treatment? Thinking of this, First Elder felt a little unbalanced. Yes, there's nothing that my Shue can't sleep for. Of course, I have to accompany her. The evildoer said matter-of-factly, not feeling that there was anything wrong with his words. However, the first elder and the other 3 elders felt their hair stand on end because they felt that his words were too nauseating. "Demon, let's go in." Lung Ruoxue ignored the expressions of the four elders and kept the little peacock into her bracelet. She then pulled the evil demon into the tent. He's really sleeping. Luwei could not help but ask when he saw Lung Ruoxue and the demon enter the tent. He thought that the two of them were just joking. How could it be fake, hee? We all like to sleep just like Miss Feng De said with a smile. In fact, he wanted to go in as well, but it didn't seem convenient now. Yes, I can tell, Lu Feng said calmly. He had spent a little more time with Lung Ruoxue and the others, so he was no longer as surprised by their habits. Hee. Feng De laughed evilly and thought to himself, how would you know about our dirty tricks? Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Calm after Lung Ruoxue and the demon entered the tent, they went straight into the bracelet. However, before the two of them could stand still, two fluffy little balls had already pounced into Lung Ruoxue's arms. One of the two balls of fur was black and the other was yellow. They were Bao Bao and QiuQiu, who had been in closed-door cultivation for a long time. The two little things kept rubbing against each other in Lung Ruoxue's arms, expressing their longing. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, began to observe the two little fellows who had come out of their closed-door cultivation at the same time. However, even after looking at them from top to bottom, she could not find any difference between the two little fellows and before they had come out of their closed-door cultivation. This was too strange. Bao Bao, QiuQiu, have you two advanced in rank? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. Yes. The two little fur balls nodded in unison. Oh, but why can't I see any difference between you two? Lung Ruoxue said honestly. Sister, we're a bit special, so the other beasts' ranks aren't suitable for us. QiuQiu spoke on behalf of the two beasts. I see. What's your level now? Lung Ruoxue asked again. We don't have a level. The two little beasts said in unison. Didn't he advance? How can it not have a level? Lung Ruoxue was depressed. Were these two little fellows trying to make her happy? Chapter 1086, The Two Black-Bellied Little Beasts 2. Big sister, we have indeed advanced, but we don't have a level. Our advancement only gives us more abilities. Bao Bao explained. Her fluffy and cute little face was full of pride. What new ability? Lung Ruoxue asked with great interest. My mind-reading technique has been upgraded to soul-searching technique. Moreover, my mental strength is very strong now. When I advance another level, I will be an adult. At that time, Baby stopped halfway and deliberately kept him in suspense. I've also become bad. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. Big sister will let you know my ability. But not now. The baby said with a smug smile. Yes, QiuQiu, what about you? Lung Ruoxue looked at QiuQiu and asked. Big sister, my treasure hunting ability has greatly improved. Moreover, the range of my senses is 10 times larger than before, QiuQiu also said with a proud smile. QiuQiu is so powerful. Lung Ruoxue stroked QiuQiu's fur and laughed. Little QiuQiu had woken up at the perfect time. It just so happened that they had just entered the divine realm and were in great need of accumulating strength. Of course, sister, let's go treasure hunting later. The more treasures I find and the higher the quality, the more beneficial it is for me to advance. Moreover, in the same as Bao Bao, I still need one more advancement to reach adulthood. Little QiuQiu said impatiently. QiuQiu, what kind of treasure do you need to find the most now? Lung Ruoxue asked. The best ones are, of course, heavenly treasures. I like treasures that are born from nature the most. Artificial cultivation won't do. QiuQiu said after some thought. Little QiuQiu, your requirements are really not low. Lung Ruoxue's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. Heavenly treasures weren't like cabbages. Where would QiuQiu find so many of them? Sister, there are many kinds of heavenly treasures. In fact, it's not just medicinal herbs and minerals, but also other things. As for what they are, I can't say for sure. You'll know when the time comes. QiuQiu explained. Yes, but we're helping the disheveled old man to find the divine fire now. After we're done finding the last volcano, we'll go and train. By then QiuQiu can find more treasures. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. QiuQiu's search for treasures was not only good for her own cultivation, it was also an accumulation of resources for them. This was definitely killing two birds with one stone. Divine flame? Big sister, if you're looking for a divine flame, I can also help. When QiuQiu heard that Lung Ruoxue was looking for the divine fire, it hurriedly said, "Are you sure?" Lung Ruoxue was a little skeptical. Could this little fellow still find the divine fire? Sister, the divine fire in nature is also born from heaven and earth, so I can sense it. QiuQiu chuckled. Haha. It's great that QiuQiu can sense the divine flame. Lung Ruoxue was extremely satisfied with this unexpected surprise. Sister, when are we going to look for her? QiuQiu couldn't wait any longer. Its natural mission was to search for treasures, and this could allow it to advance in rank, so it was happy and never tired of this. QiuQiu, that volcano is currently in its active period, so we can't enter it for the time being. We can only enter the mountain after its active period has passed. Lung Ruoxue explained. Oh, sister, take me out to play. QiuQiu pleaded. Then when you go out, you can't reveal that you can find treasures. Lung Ruoxue reminded. I'm just big sister's cute little pet. QiuQiu said in understanding. After advancing, its thinking had also matured a lot, so it naturally knew how precious it was. Sister, I want to go out and play too. The baby also begged. Okay, I'll bring you all out in a while. But don't be naughty when you're out. Lung Ruoxue warned. She wasn't worried about QiuQiu, but she was afraid that this little fellow would cause trouble. Sister, I won't cause any trouble. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's inner thoughts, Baby Su said in an aggrieved tone. You said it yourself. Lung Ruoxue reminded. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Yes. Bao Bao nodded and promised. Following that, Lung Ruoxue brought the evildoer and the two little beasts away from the bracelet. When the four elders saw the two humans and two beasts walking out of the tent, their faces were filled with question marks. Why did they come out so quickly? It had been less than half an hour, and he was already done sleeping? Why did you guys come out so quickly? Mo Yen, as the representative, asked the question that the four of them had. I took a short nap and came out after I was done. Lung Ruoxue explained casually. Little girl, what are those two fur balls in your arms? First elder looked at the fur ball in Lung Ruoxue's arms and could not help but ask curiously. He was also mumbling in his heart, could it be that all girls like this kind of furry little thing? They're my beastie. They've been in closed-door cultivation all this time. Lung Ruoxue explained simply. Yes, I'm QiuQiu. I'm the baby. The two little beasts introduced themselves obediently. However, Fengda and the others who knew them well knew that these two little beasts were not as harmless as they looked. In fact, none of the beastie by the young miss side was harmless. These two little things are so obedient. The first elder chuckled. She's also cute. Mo Yen also agreed. Just like that, Bao Bao and QiuQiu temporarily deceived the four elders with their unrivaled cuteness. They even became their favorite children. The small volcano in the floating cloud city had erupted for several days. During these few days, Lung Ruoxue and the others had been staying in their campsite. That place was quite far from the volcano and there were many buildings in the surroundings. Therefore, it was relatively safe. But now, other than eating and sleeping, they could only play with the two cute little beasts. Sister, up. A few days later, in the evening, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were preparing dinner when suddenly, Baby Su's cry for help could be heard from not far away. What's wrong? It's the baby's voice. The first elder asked in confusion. Right now, there was no one else in the city other than them, so why would Baby Su ask for help? Quickly go and take a look. Mo Yen said. After being with these two little beasts for a few days, he liked them very much, and they had indeed brought a lot of fun to them. Chapter 1087. The Two Black-Bellied Little Beasts, 3. When everyone heard this, they quickly put down what they were doing and ran in the direction of the baby's cry for help. After finding baby, Lung Ruoxue and the rest saw QiuQiu struggling in a young woman's arms, while baby was being chased by a few men in black, jumping left and right, trying to hide. After seeing Lung Ruoxue, the baby hurriedly jumped into her arms. Its little body was trembling nonstop as if it was extremely afraid. It kept mumbling, "Sister, save me. Sister, save me." When QiuQiu saw Lung Ruoxue and the others, it struggled even more violently and shouted, "Sister, save me. Save me. Let me go, you bitch. Damned animal, who are you scolding?" The young woman who was holding QiuQiu shouted angrily and even raised her fist to hit little QiuQiu. "Stop. Let it go." Lung Ruoxue said angrily as she sized up these people. The young woman looked to be in her 20s. She was very beautiful. Her strength wasn't high, only at the early divine realm. However, she had an arrogant expression on her face. Although the few black-clothed men beside her were stronger than her, they were obviously her subordinates. Lung Ruoxue understood when she saw these people. She wondered which family's unruly daughter this was. She probably saw that QiuQiu and Baobao were cute and wanted to take them for herself. However, would she allow others to have any ideas about her beastie? "How dare you order me around?" When the young woman heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she was even more furious. Lung Ruoxue's devastatingly beautiful face was something that she could not tolerate. Damn it, how could there be such a beautiful woman in this world? "So what if I order you? Release it immediately, or else don't blame me for being impolite." Lung Ruoxue warned indifferently. "Do you know who I am? How dare you speak to me like this?" The young woman shouted at the top of her lungs. "I don't care who you are, let go of QiuQiu. Otherwise you'll regret it." Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes were half closed, ready to strike at any moment. Seeing QiuQiu struggling in pain, her heart ached. "I won't let go, what can you do to me? This young lady has taken a fancy to this little beast, it's mine." The young woman said in an overbearing and arrogant manner. "Oh really? I'll let you know what happens now." As soon as Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, a ray of red light flew towards the young woman at the speed of light. The red light circled around the young woman and the others once before returning to Lung Ruoxue's wrist. It was only then that the young woman could clearly see that the red light was actually a small, beautiful red snake with a crystal-like body. Instantly, her eyes shone. He wanted to take over the little red snake again. "Give me that red snake in your hand," the young woman ordered. Ever since she was young, she had always liked beautiful and cute things. Therefore, after seeing the two little beasts and the little snake, she couldn't help but want them. "Who do you think you are?" Lung Ruoxue said disdainfully. After she finished speaking, she saw the young woman and the rest of the group go limp and fall to the ground. QiuQiu took the opportunity to escape from the woman's arms. However, before it left, it did not forget to stomp on the woman's face a few times. This cute action of its made everyone laugh out loud. Little QiuQiu did a great job, but your kicks were too light and didn't have much effect on her. Why don't you let me step on her for you?" The first elder was the first to carry QiuQiu and praised it. At the same time, he also released his beastie. The first elder's beastie came out and said loudly, "Master, who bullied little QiuQiu? Big Bear, it's them." QiuQiu pointed with its little paw and confessed everything about the young woman and the others. The great elder's beastie was an 8th-rank bear-type sacred god beast. Even in its mimicry state, it was close to 2 meters tall. In the past few days, it had become very familiar with the two little fellows QiuQiu and Baobao, so little QiuQiu naturally didn't hold back, directly using the big bear as a hatchet man. "Fuck, how dare you bully my friend? You're really looking for death." When De Xiong heard this, he was instantly enraged. He raised his foot and prepared to stomp on the young woman and the others. Lung Ruoxue looked at De Xiong's foot that was about to land and secretly sighed to herself. This great elder was really ruthless. If De Xiong were to step on them, those people would probably be turned into meat paste. This was really letting them off too easily. "Wait!" Just as De Xiong's foot was about to land, Lung Ruoxue suddenly spoke. "What's wrong?" De Xiong looked at Lung Ruoxue in confusion. His huge bare face was filled with question marks. Be gentle, don't kill anyone. Lung Ruoxue reminded kindly. Don't worry, I won't kill you easily. The big bear laughed evilly and quickly said, then immediately put his foot down. After a few stomps, even though the young woman and the rest were not crushed into meat paste, their injuries were not light. After doing all that, Lung Ruoxue and the rest left. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Calm after returning to his own encampment, Lu Feng looked at Lung Ruoxue with a strange expression. He asked in confusion, Little Fox, when did you become so kind? I thought you'd ask Big Bear to kick harder. I'm not that cruel. I'm a kind-hearted good child. Lung Ruoxue rolled her eyes and said in a speechless manner, I didn't find anything. Lu Feng's face was filled with disbelief. Idiot. The little girl clearly doesn't want them to die too easily. Didn't you see that they've already been bitten by that little red snake? The first elder said with a face full of disappointment. How could he have such a stupid grandson? It would be great if this little girl was a part of their family. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel jealous of Lung Xiaoyu. The clueless Lung Xiaoyu was so frightened by the first elder's resentful gaze that her hair stood on end. Grandmaster, why are you staring at me? Lung Xiaoyu asked helplessly. I don't like the look of you, all right? The great elder said unhappily. Then, he carried QiuQiu in his arms and sat at the side to sulk. What's wrong with this old man? Lu Feng said in a somewhat puzzled manner. He hadn't even had the time to talk back. The old man dodged to the side, which made him feel like he had punched cotton. Chapter 1088. The Two Black-Bellied Little Beasts. 4. Fine, hurry up and get to work. Lung Ruoxue urged, feeling amused. She did not even need to use Green Vessel to read the minds of her babies, but that little fellow had already told her the first elder's thoughts. After she heard it, she could not help but smile to herself. After dinner, Lung Ruoxue and the rest chatted for a while. Just as they were preparing to rest early so that they could enter the volcano the next day, they were interrupted by some uninvited guests. And among those people, there happened to be one of them who was bitten by Xiaohua and stepped on by the big bear in the afternoon. However, the man's injuries were lighter. After taking the elixir, his injuries were almost healed. However, the poison in his body could not be cured. Therefore, the man's face was now like a pig's head. As for their team leaders, they were actually acquaintances. Miss Lung, why are you here? Qi Rui was overjoyed to see Lung Ruoxue and the others in his own territory. Why has young Master Qi also come to the floating cloud city? Lung Ruoxue chuckled and asked indifferently. After seeing Qi Rui, she understood the identity of those people in the afternoon. They were from the Qi family, one of the 8 great divine regions. No wonder they were so overbearing. The floating cloud city's volcano erupted, so I've come to check on the losses. Qi Rui explained and then asked, where is Miss Lung and the others? We came to that volcano to train, but we didn't expect it to erupt just in time, so we stayed here. Lung Ruoxue replied perfunctorily. Oh. Qi Rui nodded. At this time, the pighead beside him said impatiently, Young master, these are the people who injured the young lady and You shut up. Qi Rui bellowed. Actually, he was in a difficult position. Although he didn't want to be enemies with Lung Ruoxue and the others, he couldn't just ignore the matter of his unruly cousin. How could this be good? His brows were so tightly knitted that they were about to come together. Young Master Qi, are you here to settle the score with us? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. No, I just heard from my subordinate that my cousin was bullied just now, so I came to take a look. Qi Rui quickly explained. That woman is your cousin? They and the pig beside you were all injured by me. I wonder how young Master Qi would like to deal with them? Lung Ruoxue went straight to the point. She didn't care how conflicted Qi Rui was. They had only met a few times anyway. However, if Qi Rui was a reasonable person, there was no harm in befriending him. I believe that what happened this afternoon was a misunderstanding, so our Qi family will not pursue this matter. However, can Miss Lung please give me the antidote? They were bitten by your little red snake, and I have given them many antidotes, but none of them had any effect. QiuQiu said very politely. There is no antidote unless they let Xiaohua bite them again. However, if that happens, they will be poisoned even more severely. Young Master Qi, you can let them choose. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Even if your Qi family doesn't want to pursue this matter, she still wants to. Not just anyone could covet her beastie. This, QiuQiu was in a difficult position. Young Master Qi, did you just say that your Qi clan will not pursue this matter? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she asked. Yes, I am. QiuQiu nodded, his handsome face full of question marks. He thought to himself, what does Miss Leng mean? You guys don't want to pursue it, but what if I want to pursue it? Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with worry. QiuQiu was speechless. He really didn't know what to say. Young Master Qi, because of your cousin's rudeness, my cute little QiuQiu and baby have been hurt physically and mentally. How do you think we should settle this score? Leng Ruoxue said with a smile that was not a smile. Before she knew that the woman was from the Qi family, she only wanted to make the woman wish she was dead. However, now that she knew that she was the young lady of the Qi family, why should she be polite? If he didn't slaughter them now, when would he? Can you let me see the two little beasts first? He had heard some of his cousin's subordinates mention what had happened before. However, he naturally did not believe everything that her subordinates said. All right, QiuQiu, baby, come over. Leng Ruoxue called out to the corner. Sister, we're here. A weak voice rang in everyone's ears. Everyone turned around in unison and saw two dirty little beasts limping out from the corner. The two little beasts' furs were dull and covered in dust. Their tangled fur was stained with bright red. At this moment, their eyes were filled with fear. Their palm-sized bodies trembled non-stop as they slowly walked towards Leng Ruoxue. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Chapter 1089. Little QiuQiu's Abduction. 1. When Fengda and the rest saw this, they were speechless. However, they had a better tolerance. They were already familiar with Leng Ruoxue's beastly habits, so they were used to it. When the great elder saw the appearance of the two little beasts, he was stunned with his mouth wide open. After he recovered, he couldn't help but secretly sigh. It was really like what kind of person raised what kind of beast. That little girl's beasts were actually the same as her, two extremely black-bellied little things. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, it would have been hard for him to believe that the two little beasts who had been playing with him just a moment ago had become so miserable and pitiful in the blink of an eye. No wonder when the Qi family arrived, the two little fellows immediately ran to a corner sneakily. They were busy dressing up. As you can see, their current state is caused by your cousin. These two little things were originally lively and cute, but now they are full of fear. Moreover, after we rescued them, they did not eat, drink, or talk to anyone. They have been hiding in a corner. Young Master Qi, you must seek justice for my two poor little fellows. Leng Ruoxue's face was filled with sorrow as she spoke. In order to cooperate with their master, QiuQiu and Baobao's little bodies trembled even more violently. This, QiuQiu was speechless. The two little beasts in front of him did look very pitiful. Their originally black and bright eyes were now dull and full of fear. It seemed that they were indeed frightened. But how was he going to uphold justice? Was he supposed to beat up his cousin to vent the anger of these two little beasts? I know that this matter is a little difficult for young Master Qi, but from my perspective, I can't help but vent my anger for my beastie. Sigh. Leng Ruoxue's face was also filled with a difficult expression. Then I wonder how can I let Miss Leng's beastie vent its anger? QiuQiu could not help but ask. You'll have to ask my beastie. They're the ones being bullied. As long as they're satisfied, I'm satisfied. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Then she turned to her beastie and said, QiuQiu, baby, this brother Qi is going to avenge you. If you have any requests, just let me know. After listening to Leng Ruoxue's words, QiuQiu was speechless again. He didn't expect Miss Leng to let the two underaged little beasts make their own requests. What could these two little fellows possibly come up with? Thinking of this, he felt a lot more at ease. However, It didn't take long for him to know how wrong he was. Because these two little guys were black-hearted. Really? Brother Qi, you can make the decision? QiuQiu's clear eyes were filled with confusion, but its voice was soft and sweet, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Don't worry, Brother Qi can still make such a decision. Qi Rui's heart softened when he heard the sweet child's voice. But we don't believe it. The baby's suspicion was more obvious. Compared to QiuQiu's obedient behavior, it was a rebellious little fellow. Brother Qi, you keep your word. I definitely won't lie to a child. Qi Rui was so depressed that he almost swore an oath. He couldn't help but think to himself, why isn't this little guy cute? Couldn't it be as obedient as the little thing just now? Then you'll have to show me some evidence. Bao Bao thought for a while and said very seriously, I wonder what kind of evidence you want? Qi Rui asked curiously. That woman found us cute, so she made us look like this. We want to make her look like this too. The baby said like a little nationalistic youth. As he spoke, he clenched his little fists. She's already in a terrible state. Qi Rui said honestly. But we haven't even made a move yet. Bao Bao said unyieldingly. She was clearly implying that no matter how miserable she was, it wasn't caused by them, so it didn't count. Then if I let you vent your anger on her and beat her up, you won't hold it against me anymore? Qi Rui asked carefully. Why was this little fellow so difficult to deal with? We'll see. However, we're injured, so you'll have to pay for the medical expenses. The baby said again. The medical expenses are definitely not a problem. Qi Rui nodded. In his heart, how much could the medical expenses of these two little beasts cost? He should be able to settle it with some delicious food. Then, Brother Qi, make an oath. I'm afraid you'll go back on your word. Bao Bao suggested. I have to swear? Don't you trust Brother Qi? Qi Rui was helpless. Oaths in the divine world could not be casually made. Otherwise, if he failed to do so, he would end up in a miserable state. Brother Qi, are you afraid? So Brother Qi was just coaxing us to play. The baby said with a disappointed look. His wrinkled little face clearly said, I told you didn't trust me. I'm not afraid. They'll just make an oath. Qi Rui didn't want to be looked down upon by an underaged little beast, so he could only bite the bullet and say, Brother Qi, repeat after me. Bao Bao said with a smile, completely different from the angry young man earlier. All right then. Qi Rui nodded. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Qi Mumu, because my cousin injured two innocent and cute little beasts, am willing to compensate them on behalf of the Qi clan and satisfy all their requests. If I break the oath, I'll become a fool and my cousin will become an ugly monster. The baby said loudly. When Qi Rui first started reciting it with Bao Bao, he didn't find anything wrong with it. However, in the end he realized that if he went back on his oath, not only would he become a fool, but his cousin would also become an ugly monster. However, once an oath was made, it couldn't be stopped, so he could only follow Bao Bao's instructions and fulfill the contents of the oath. After making their vows, the two little beasts were overjoyed. However, Qi Rui was extremely depressed. He felt that he had been tricked by the two seemingly innocent and cute little beasts. If this were to spread out, he would become the laughingstock of others. However, the uncooked rice had already been cooked. There was no point in him being depressed. Now, his only hope was that these two little beasts were not too difficult to deal with. Otherwise, wouldn't he really become a fool? Brother Qi, can you fulfill your promise to us now? Little QiuQiu asked in a soft voice. Its originally dim eyes also became clear and filled with anticipation. Chapter 1090, Little QiuQiu's Abduction, 2. I can. Qi Rui couldn't refuse such a pure gaze and quickly responded. Then hand over the woman who injured us first. Little QiuQiu pleaded. All right, he said. Qi Rui nodded and ordered his subordinates to bring his cousin over. When the young woman was brought here and saw Lung Ruoxue and the rest, a bloodthirsty look immediately appeared in her eyes. Not only did she remember these people, but she was also preparing to settle the score with them. She didn't expect it to come so soon. She couldn't help but sneer in her heart. However, she didn't feel smug for long before she was shocked by her cousin's shocking words. "I've already had someone bring her here. You can take your revenge now," QiuQiu said without any emotion. "QiuQiu, do you even know what you're saying? How can you join forces with outsiders to deal with me?" The young woman immediately questioned QiuQiu. "Shut up. This is all your fault and you still have the face to say it," QiuQiu said loudly. If it wasn't for his aunt's good treatment of him, he wouldn't have bothered to care about this insensible cousin. Lung Ruoxue and the others had Mo Yen backing them up. Even if this cousin was the young mistress of the Qi family, when it came to the Qi family's interests, this useless cousin would probably be abandoned by the Qi family. Everything he did was for her own good. However, he was very clear that this willful cousin would not understand, and he did not want to explain anything. "I only took a fancy to those two beasts. What's wrong with that? It's all because of them that I'm in this state." The young lady pointed at Lung Ruoxue and the rest and said in dissatisfaction. Indeed, she did not look good now. Her originally beautiful face had turned into a fat pig's head and her hands were swollen like two big pig trotters. However, what was more unacceptable to her was that QiuQiu, as her brother, not only did not avenge her, but he even wanted to hand her over to the two little beasts. This was really intolerable. "We're not animals." QiuQiu and Baobao's eyes were filled with tears as they choked out. "If you guys aren't animals, then am I?" The young woman shouted angrily. "At least you have some self-awareness," Baobao said in satisfaction. Tears were still swimming in her eyes, and they were in danger of falling at any moment. "What are you two kids waiting for? Hurry up and take revenge." At this time, First Elder could not help but urge. "Brother Qi, we're too young. Can we ask for help?" Little QiuQiu looked up at QiuQiu and asked. "You can't let your master help you," QiuQiu said after some thought. If Lung Ruoxue were to make a move, this cousin of his would probably lose her life. "Well, ask Beastie for help. Big sister doesn't need to do it." Little QiuQiu had a look of, "Don't worry," he said. "Well, that's good." "Yes," QiuQiu replied. He looked at the two little ones and knew that it would be difficult for them to take revenge on their own. "Thank you, Brother Qi, you're such a good person." Little QiuQiu tried to please him. Hee. QiuQiu could only laugh drily and thought to himself, "So this little thing is admitting that I'm a good person now?" These two little fellows were still very wary of him just now. "Big sister, can you let Big Brother and the rest come out and help us take revenge?" Little QiuQiu requested of Lung Ruoxue. "Sure." Lung Ruoxue nodded. With a thought, she moved her precious little beasts out of the bangle. As soon as Baby and the other beasts came out, they immediately surrounded QiuQiu and Baby and roared angrily, "Damn it, who did this to you?" "It's her." QiuQiu and Baby's two little claws pointed at the young woman in unison. "Damn it, you're really looking for death. Brothers, let's go and teach her a good lesson." The baby gave the order, and the little beasts rushed toward the young woman as fast as lightning. In an instant, the young woman's body was left with bloody marks and her clothes were torn. The pain made her scream continuously. However, no matter how she dodged, she could not escape from the few little beasts that were tightly wrapped around her like ghosts. As for Baby and the other beasts, they had been in the bracelet for too long and had been holding it in for a long time. Now that they finally had a chance to come out, of course, they had to vent their anger. Therefore, this unlucky and miserable woman became their first target. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Camargue, help me. The young woman kept calling for help. "Miss Lung, can you make them stop?" QiuQiu couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't help but plead. His cousin's current appearance was really too miserable. "Don't worry, young Master Qi, they know what they're doing. They won't kill anyone." Lung Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. Oh. QiuQiu could tell that Lung Ruoxue was only trying to save his cousin's life. Fortunately, he wasn't the one who offended her. Otherwise, he didn't know what would happen to him. However, it was better to live than to lose his life. He could not help but comfort himself. "Don't worry, young man from the Qi family. The little fox will give you face and not take her life." Lu Feng also consoled. Your Excellency Lu Feng, why are you here? It was only then that Qi noticed Lu Feng's presence. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Actually, he couldn't be blamed for having bad eyesight. It was just that Leng Ruoxue had so many subordinates, and Lu Feng was mixed in with them. If Lu Feng hadn't suddenly spoken up, he really wouldn't have noticed him. Of course it's for my disciple. Lu Feng pointed at the disheveled old man and said, Congratulations to your Excellency Lu Feng for accepting such a good disciple. Qi said enviously. He recognized this old man and knew that he was one of Leng Ruoxue's men. However, he did not expect that the flowing wind pavilion would take this old man as a disciple. If that was the case, Leng Ruoxue would have another strong backer. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief at his decision. Fortunately, he had chosen to befriend these people, otherwise, if he had offended them, the Qi clan's losses would definitely be incalculable. At this moment, his cousin's injury was nothing in his eyes. After all, this matter was caused by his stubborn cousin. Even if the family had knew about this, he would probably make the same decision. Chapter 1091, Little QiuQiu's Abduction, 3. Then, Qi continued to chat with Lu Feng, and his cousin who was still suffering had long been forgotten. It was only when he was about to leave that he remembered his cousin who had fainted from the pain. Let's carry Miss back. Everyone'll take my leave first. See you tomorrow. Qi bowed slightly and left with his subordinates. Hey, why did you leave? We haven't even paid for our medical fees. The baby shouted as he watched Qi and the others leave. Its words almost made Qi and the rest fall. However, they did not turn back, and even Qi continued walking as if he did not hear anything. As for his subordinates, they were all thinking the same thing in their hearts. They had already beaten the young miss to a pulp, yet that little beast still remembered their medical expenses? Then who was he going to ask for his young lad's medical expenses? Sister, that brother Qi is not a good person. He ran away without paying us back the money he owed us. Bao Bao complained to Leng Ruoxue. Qi had suddenly become a bad person in its heart. What are you afraid of? Didn't he make an oath? The monk can run away, but the temple can also run away. If he doesn't pay, well, go to the Qi family to ask for it. Leng Ruoxue hugged the baby and consoled him. The medical expenses must be doubled. Bao Bao laughed evilly. One man and one beast echoed each other, making the four elders break out in cold sweat. However, looking at Feng De and the others' calm and composed appearance, the four couldn't help but sigh from the bottom of their hearts. They still had to train. Grandpa First Elder, you have to help us. Little QiuQiu suddenly said. Little QiuQiu, how do you want me to help you? The first elder said helplessly. He would definitely help him, but this little thing couldn't be scheming against him, right? If you go to the Qi family to ask for money, the Qi family definitely won't dare to not give it. But if we go, little QiuQiu's face was sullen, and it couldn't continue halfway through its words. Didn't Qi make an oath? What are you all afraid of? The great elder was speechless. So this little thing wanted him to help it get its medical expenses. However, it wasn't appropriate for him to ask for medical expenses with his status, right? He hesitated. Don't worry, great elder grandpa. The money we ask for will definitely match your status. If it's too little, how can we trouble you? Bao Bao, who understood First Elder's thoughts, hurriedly said. In other words, the medical expenses from the Qi family would not be small. All right then. The great elder was speechless. Although he knew that these two little fellows only wanted to use him to pull the wool over his eyes, he was actually willing to be used by them. AI. Who asked him to be unable to refuse the request of these two little fellows. It seemed that being cute did have its advantages. After the two little beasts and the first elder finished their discussion, everyone planned to go to rest. However, before going to bed, Feng De and the others looked at the first elder with a little sympathy before entering their respective tents. The next morning, Leng Ruoxue and the rest had just finished their breakfast and were about to enter the volcano to check out the situation when Qi came again. What are you doing here? You're a bad person. The baby's eyes were bright and watery as she said in dissatisfaction. Baby, when did I offend you? Why are you a bad person now? QiuQiu said helplessly. He thought that he had managed to coax this little fellow yesterday. However, it had only been one night and he had become a bad person again. However, this little guy's clean appearance was really cute. No wonder his cousin was moved and wanted to take him for herself. You still haven't paid the medical fees you owe us. Bao Bao reminded. It was too late last night, I forgot. QiuQiu said, a little embarrassed. In fact, he felt that he had lost face, so he left in a hurry last night. As for the medical expenses of the two little beasts, he had made an oath. How could he renege on it? Then pay us now. The baby stretched out his little paw and handed it to QiuQiu. Alright. QiuQiu took out a piece of high-grade crystal and placed it on the baby's little paw. What is this? Bao Bao looked at the jingsher in her hand with dissatisfaction. Why did she give it this broken thing? It wasn't like there weren't any other big sister's space that was better than this, so it didn't care. High-grade crystal stones. Not only can you use them for cultivation, but you can also spend them like money. Are you satisfied? QiuQiu explained. In his heart, all beasties should like jingsher. After all, it could help them cultivate. Unfortunately, he didn't know that he was facing a little beast that wasn't interested in jingsher. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Calm, I don't want this thing. Give me something useful. After the baby finished speaking, he threw the crystal that was emitting a light blue light back to QiuQiu. This is very useful, baby, you're still young and don't understand. This thing really is useful. QiuQiu tried his best to persuade her, but the baby turned his head to the other side and did not even look at him. Baby, what do you want? QiuQiu sighed softly and asked helplessly. These little things were too difficult to take care of. He really didn't know how Lung Ruoxue raised them. I only want heavenly treasures, nothing else. The baby opened her mouth and said, You're just a little beast, what do you want heavenly treasures for? You don't even know how to refine pills. QiuQiu asked in confusion. You're so stupid. It's only natural for beastie to like heavenly treasures. Otherwise, why would there be a guardian beast beside heavenly treasures? Besides, if beastie wants to eat heavenly treasures, there's no need to refine them into pills. Bao Bao said with a look of disdain. That would be a waste. QiuQiu said softly, but he felt depressed in his heart. Ooh. He was actually looked down upon by an underaged little beast. That's my business. Anyway, our medical expenses can only be heavenly treasures. Otherwise, you'll fail to fulfill your promise and become a fool. Bao Bao reminded him with a wicked heart. Alright then. However, I don't have any heavenly treasures on me right now. If you want them, you must come with me to the Qi family to get them. QiuQiu said in resignation. Sure, but only after we're done with our business. Bao Bao said, Are you guys going into the volcano? QiuQiu couldn't help but ask. Yesterday, he had heard Lung Ruoxue mention that they were going to enter the volcano to train. However, they had been blocked by the erupting lava. Chapter 1092, Little QiuQiu's Abduction, 4, Yes. The baby nodded. Miss Lung, when do you plan to enter the volcano? QiuQiu turned around and asked Lung Ruoxue. We're planning to go in now. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Can I go with you guys? QiuQiu, you're going into the volcano too? Lung Ruoxue was a little surprised. Wasn't QiuQiu the young master of the Qi family? He was actually willing to risk his life. In addition to coming to the floating cloud city to check on the losses, my other mission was to enter the volcano and find out the reason for its frequent eruptions. QiuQiu said honestly. You're the young master of the Qi family, and the Qi family actually let you take the risk? Lung Ruoxue asked the question in her heart. I'm only the young master of the Qi family on the godly mainland. In the main family, my status is nothing. There's always someone who can replace you. QiuQiu said with a bitter smile. In fact, he had no other choice but to come to the floating cloud city. Oh, since that's the case, let's enter the mountain together. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. She had a good impression of Qi so she didn't mind traveling with him. When are we leaving? Qi said impatiently. Young Master Qi, why are you more anxious than me? Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she teased. The sooner we find the reason, the sooner the people of Floating Cloud City can return to their homes. Qi explained. Because of the volcano in the Floating Cloud City, the people of the city had temporarily moved to the nearby cities. This had also brought a burden to the other cities. Therefore, he naturally hoped to find out the cause as soon as possible to avoid causing panic. As expected of the young master of the Qi family. He is so considerate of the people. Lung Ruoxue praised. The Floating Cloud City belongs to the Qi clan after all, so I should try my best. Qi said, a little embarrassed. Let's go now. Lung Ruoxue said as she looked at the crowd. Following that, Qi led his subordinates and followed Lung Ruoxue's group towards the volcano. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest arrived at this nameless volcano again, they could feel the soaring heat even when they were still at the foot of the mountain. It was still frighteningly hot. Miss, why is it still so hot here? Fengde was speechless. The temperature of this volcano was even higher than the biggest volcano in the godly mainland, the Howling Moon volcano. He could even feel that his hair had been burnt. This volcano has erupted for several days. It's normal to have such a temperature. Lung Ruoxue said. At the foot of the mountain, traces of magma that had yet to completely solidify could still be seen. The places with a lot of magma were still bubbling, and flames would appear from time to time. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she couldn't help but hesitate. She didn't know if the volcano would erupt again. If they entered the mountain now and the volcano erupted, they would be in danger. However, just as she was thinking about it, QiuQiu suddenly sent her a voice transmission. Big sister, quickly enter the mountain. It's about to escape. Who's going to escape? Lung Ruoxue transmitted her voice in confusion. The divine flame. The divine flame is about to escape. The divine flame had sensed their auras, so it was so afraid that it wanted to escape. He couldn't let it escape. This cluster of divine fire already had intelligence and was about to advance in rank. If he could catch it, it would be of great benefit to it. Thinking of this, QiuQiu became even more excited. There's a divine flame here? Lung Ruoxue was pleasantly surprised. She never thought that this unassuming little volcano would actually hide the divine fire that they had been searching for so long. Yes, and not only has it developed intelligence, but it's also about to advance. QiuQiu said happily. Hearing QiuQiu's words, Lung Ruoxue no longer hesitated and immediately said to the crowd, let's go in and take a look. Please keep reading 0 NYB 0 XN 0 VL. Miss Lung, it seems that the volcano has not completely stabilized yet. Why don't we wait for a few more days? Qi suggested. Sister, we can't wait anymore. Before Lung Ruoxue could reply, little QiuQiu transmitted its voice anxiously. A divine fire with intelligence was a good thing. If he let it escape, he would regret it to death. It's okay. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Maybe we'll have a big harvest. Lung Ruoxue said. However, her words had a special meaning that only the demon could understand. Miss, in that case, let's go in. Fengde said anxiously. With QiuQiu here, there must be something good inside. Otherwise, how could QiuQiu, who was in Miss' arms, be so frivolous? Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded and led Fengde and the rest towards the entrance of the volcano. Qi followed after her. When they reached the entrance of the volcano, Lung Ruoxue and the rest floated in the air. They passed the lava that was blocking the entrance and headed deeper into the volcano. As Lung Ruoxue walked, she observed the situation in the mountains while conversing with QiuQiu in her heart. QiuQiu, where is the divine fire now? After walking for a while, Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. Sister, that divine fire is very cunning. It knows that we've entered. It doesn't dare to stay in a fixed position and is playing hide and seek with us. QiuQiu said helplessly. Although it could sense the divine fire could also sense them. Therefore, the divine fire wouldn't stop for long wherever they went. When QiuQiu told Leng Ruoxue about the situation, Leng Ruoxue stopped in her tracks and furrowed her brows in deep thought. When Feng De and the others saw this, they knew that the young lady had encountered a difficult problem. Therefore, they had a tacit understanding not to disturb her. When Lu Feng wanted to speak, his mouth was immediately covered and he was warned in a low voice, "Don't be noisy. Can't you see that Miss is thinking?" Ah! Lu Feng was speechless. He realized that the little fox's subordinates were really overbearing. When the little fox was thinking, they couldn't even speak. They were really bullying people. After a moment's silence, Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes to look at the crowd and said, "Great Elder, it'll have to trouble you to take Feng De and the others back to the encampment. It'll stay here with the demon. Young Master Qi, you should go back too. It'll give you a satisfactory answer later. Little fox, what's the point of you staying here with him when you want us to go back?" Lu Feng said with great interest. The word gossip was written on his handsome face. Chapter 1093, Little QiuQiu's Abduction, 5. You'll know when the time comes. You'll definitely be satisfied. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Even Lu Feng's tools were unable to find any traces of the divine flame. It seemed like the divine flame was indeed scheming and knew how to hide. "Why don't you let me stay and help?" Lu Feng said shamelessly, but he couldn't help but mutter in his heart, "This little fox must have something fun to do and didn't want them to participate. That won't do." Therefore, he had to stay as a witness. "It's good enough that you're not making things worse. I can't trust you," Leng Ruoxue said without giving him any face. "Little fox, don't be like this." Lu Feng's face was bitter, depressed to the extreme. "No means no. You'll only get in the way if you stay here, so you just have to stay in the encampment. Also, you have to protect my family and subordinates along the way. Otherwise, you'll be held responsible," Leng Ruoxue said, leaving no room for discussion. "Stinky brat, come back with me. Don't give this little girl any more trouble." At this moment, the first elder spoke up. He was very clear that the little girl had asked them all to return because she had discovered something. With so many of them present, it was likely that the thing would not come out. However, he didn't mind Leng Ruoxue asking them to go back first because he believed that Leng Ruoxue would explain it to them. After all, that lass had even chased away her own family and subordinates. "Oh!" Lu Feng unwillingly nodded his head and followed the great elder and the others out of the volcano. On the way back to the encampment, Lu Feng was still complaining nonstop, until Feng De couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, "Lu Feng, are you done? Aren't you worried about the little fox's safety?" Lu Feng looked at Feng De, who was glaring at him angrily, and asked in a wronged tone, "My lattice survival ability is much higher than yours. If we stay there, we will only drag her down. So, we just have to stay in the encampment and wait for her to come back. You better shut your mouth and stop talking about it. Otherwise, I will have to block your mouth," Feng De warned. "That granddaughter of mine is very smart, so you don't have to worry about her safety." Leng Qingtian held back his laughter and consoled Lu Feng. "Oh!" Lu Feng responded softly, but his eyes glared fiercely at the first elder, Mo Yen, and Lu Yu. That damned guy, he actually laughed when he was being lectured. He really had no sympathy. However, even if he felt embarrassed, he still had to follow them back to the base. After the others had left, Leng Ruoxue then explained the situation to the demon. Following that, the two of them entered the bracelet, planning to wait for the fire to start. 3 days later, the divine flame did not move at all. Moreover, after sensing that Feng De and the others had left, the divine flame no longer tried to escape. However, it was still very cautious as it circled around the volcano. It did not even stay in the same place for too long. In the bracelet, this divine flame is quite smart. The demon, who had been observing the movements of the divine fire through the light screen, said with a faint smile, "It's been 3 days and the divine fire hasn't come in our direction. I wonder how long we'll have to wait." Leng Ruoxue said gloomily, It seemed like waiting for the fire to come would not work. However, she didn't dare to move easily, for fear of being discovered by the careful divine fire. Big sister, capturing a divine flame is not an easy task. I can see that this divine flame has existed in this world for at least several tens of thousands of years. Its intelligence is not inferior to any humanness. Moreover, it is at a crucial moment in its advancement, so it naturally has to be extra careful. After all, if it is caught while it is advancing, then its tens of thousands of years of cultivation will all turn into bubbles. QiuQiu said, "You're saying that this divine flame also knows what will happen to it if it gets caught?" Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. "Sister, all sprites born from the spiritual qi of heaven and earth are very clear about this. That's why they would do everything possible to avoid humans. Humans are the greatest enemies of these natural treasures." QiuQiu explained. "I just want to help the old man advance. I don't intend to take his life." Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. She hated to hurt these little fellows who had already developed their own intelligence. However, she had to do something about the rotten old man. "Sister, if you want your natal flame to advance, you must fuse with a flame of a higher level. Once this divine flame is fused, it will no longer be the original one." QiuQiu said in a slightly frustrated manner. Spirits that already had their own thoughts would not like to become a part of others. Therefore, unless they could harden their hearts, they could only let go of that divine flame. Is there no other way? I didn't want to wipe out the intelligence of that divine flame. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly. The cultivation of an elf was much more difficult than that of humans and beasts. Hence, she could not bear to hurt a little fellow who had been cultivating for tens of thousands of years. "I only know of this one method." QiuQiu thought for a while and said with certainty. Although he understood plant-type sprites, he was not clear about divine fire at all. Please keep reading 0 and IB0XN0VL. Calm, big sister, let's not worry about that for now. Let's capture that divine flame first. Maybe it has a good idea. QiuQiu suggested. Yes, that's the only way. Lung Ruoxue nodded. After another 2 days, the divine fire that Lung Ruoxue and the demon had been waiting for finally began to move towards their direction. Through the screen, Lung Ruoxue held her breath as she stared intently at the dark red flame that was slowly drifting through the screen. This flame was extremely small and exquisite. It was only the size of a baby's pinky finger. The outer layer of the flame flickered with a dazzling radiance, and wherever it went, everything would be charred black. After moving around for 2 days, the cautious divine fire was getting closer to Lung Ruoxue's location. After a long time, just as the divine flame neared Lung Ruoxue's position, she and the demon suddenly appeared and used a specially made light net to capture the divine flame. The divine flame was then enveloped by a ball of white light. The divine flame struggled intensely, but it could not break free from the net of light. Its scorching temperature could not melt the net either. After understanding all this, the divine flame panicked. Not long after, the sound of weeping could be heard from the net. Lung Ruoxue's head started to throb when she heard the tender voice. Why is it another child? What should he do? I don't want to die. I beg you to let me go. A tender child's voice entered Lung Ruoxue's ears. You won't die. I just need your help with something. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. I'm still young, I can't help you much. The divine flame said in a small voice. Please let me go. I'm about to break through. The divine flame pleaded again. Little fire seed, do you think you can resist the heavenly tribulation by yourself? Why don't you follow my sister in the future? It'll guarantee that you'll live a good life. QiuQiu coaxed and used cannonballs on the divine fire. Lung Ruoxue, who was carrying QiuQiu, listened to QiuQiu's arrogant words and couldn't help but feel a few black lines sliding down her forehead. She thought to herself, who did QiuQiu learn these words from? Where did her innocent and cute little QiuQiu go? What do you mean by good food and good wine? The divine flame asked in a low voice. Its food was lava and it had never eaten anything else. It means good food and drink. QiuQiu thought for a moment and explained. It's more delicious than lava? The divine flame asked curiously. Of course, how is it? Just follow my sister. QiuQiu pressed on. It was bent on keeping this divine flame into Lung Ruoxia's bag. Can I consider it? The divine flame said hesitantly. What's there to consider? You'll definitely regret it at that time. Besides, even if you succeed in advancing, can you guarantee that you can live a long life? Won't be discovered? In other people's hands, they didn't receive such good treatment as in my sister's hands. QiuQiu reminded. Then can I not die? The divine flame was tempted, but it was also worried that it would die. Who said I want you to die? Don't scare yourself. I never kill elves. QiuQiu promised. Then I agree. I'll follow your sister from now on. The divine flame thought for a moment and relented. It then added, however, I have to break through first before I can leave with you. No problem, I will definitely help you. QiuQiu said confidently. Chapter 1094. The Divine Flame Tribulation, 1. Thank you. I want to ask who your sister is? The divine flame said in embarrassment. It's this stunning beauty who's hugging me. Little QiuQiu said a little narcissistically. When Lung Ruoxia heard QiuQiu's words, she couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. She thought to herself, does a cluster of divine flames know what an absolute beauty is? QiuQiu, we have to keep a low profile. Oh. The divine flame nodded, not fully understanding. Suddenly, the sky was filled with dark clouds, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Seeing this, the divine flame became nervous. It kept jumping around in the net of light while shouting, Heavenly tribulation! The heavenly tribulation is coming! Lung Ruoxia looked at the sky that was getting darker and darker. The dark clouds in the sky had already started to gather together. Not long after, the dark clouds had covered the sky above Lung Ruoxia and the demon. Shui, we have to leave the tribulation clouds range. Otherwise, we'll be affected as well. The demon child warned. Moreover, once they were treated as spirits by the tribulation clouds, the might of the heavenly tribulation would increase by several times. In that case, it would be even more difficult for the divine flame to advance. What about the divine flame? Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but ask. QiuQiu had already said that it would help the divine fire, so she couldn't just ignore it, right? Moreover, the divine flame had already agreed to leave with her. In this case, this little flame was also considered one of them. Shui, it has to rely on itself for this matter. We can't help much, but you can leave some fire attribute pills for it. We can't do anything about the rest. The demon said after thinking for a while. Well, all right then. Lung Ruoxia nodded. She also knew that these fairies who had cultivated for at least 10,000 years had to go through the test of the heavenly tribulation before they could transform. Otherwise, the heavens would not allow these heaven-defying little things to exist in this world. Their heavenly tribulation was much more difficult than the advancement of humans and beasts. Hence, she was not willing to hurt them. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxia took out a white jade bottle and released the divine fire from the light net. Divine fire, here is a bottle of fire-type medicinal pills. If you can't withstand the tribulation, you can take one pill. However, I don't know if this pill will be useful to your divine fire. As for the rest, you'll have to rely on yourself. It's useful. Thank you, sister. The divine flame said gratefully. It then separated an even smaller flame to hold the small jade bottle, waiting for the heavenly tribulation to descend. At the same time, Lung Ruoxia carried QiuQiu and the demon out of the heavenly tribulation's range. They observed from afar. He waited for a long time. The heavenly tribulation that had been brewing for a long time finally descended from the sky. A black heavenly lightning bolt that was as thick as a water bucket and flickered with electric sparks directly enveloped the tiny divine flame. Lung Ruoxia's heart could not help but jump into her throat when she saw this scene. The area of the first heavenly lightning bolt was already so huge. He wondered if the cluster of divine fire could swallow it. Continue reading on MIB0XN0VL. Calm when she had nothing to do these few days, she had deliberately read some books on how elves could advance. among which there was also information on divine fire. The divine fire's tribulation was to devour all the tribulation lightning. There were at least 9 tribulation lightning bolts and at most 81 tribulation lightning bolts. Although he didn't know which type the divine fire had encountered, no matter what, if they were all of the same size, the tiny divine fire would be stuffed. Perhaps I should prepare some medicine that helps with its digestion, Lung Ruoxue thought to herself. Big sister, don't worry. It will definitely succeed. QiuQiu sneaked a peek at Lung Ruoxue's thoughts and chuckled. It was born to search for treasures of heaven and earth, so no one knew the habits of those treasures better than it. If those little guys didn't have some means of self-protection, they wouldn't have the chance to transform. What's more, this time, there were medicinal pills prepared by its sister for the divine fire. So, in its opinion, the divine fire's transformation was almost certain. There was no need to worry at all. I'm just afraid it'll hold. Lung Ruoxue said, a little embarrassed. You're so cute. Don't worry. The tribulation lightning has different effects on the divine fire. If it really can't eat it, the demon stopped halfway through. However, Lung Ruoxue understood what he meant. These lightning tribulations were definitely a huge test for the divine fire. If the divine fire couldn't be completely fused, it would have to start all over again and turn into an unconscious flame that would drift around in the world. After about an hour, the first tribulation lightning would be extinguished by the divine fire. Moreover, looking at the panting appearance of the divine fire, it seemed that it had used a lot of energy. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she could not help but start to worry. It was only the first tribulation lightning bolt, and the divine fire had already taken so long to devour it. If a few more bolts were to come, could the divine fire really take it? It really wasn't easy to become an elf who could transform. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue made up her mind to treat these little fellows even better in the future. This was the first time she had seen a fairy take human form, so she was quite shocked. Just as Lung Ruoxue was thinking to herself, the lightning tribulation that had been brewing for a while descended once more. This time, the divine flames took even longer to devour. Then the third, the fourth, until the 9th tribulation lightning descended, it had already taken a day to devour the divine fire. The divine flame did not consume the elixir that Lung Ruoxue had given it during the first 8 lightning strikes. However, the power of the 9th lightning strike was at least 10 times stronger than the first 8. The divine flame felt that it could not hold on any longer, so it opened the bottle cap and consumed an elixir. After consuming the elixir, the divine flame felt that its body was filled with fighting spirit again. It was even more confident. The divine flame had used up more than half a day's time to resist the 9th lightning tribulation. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the demon had brought QiuQiu into the bracelet and were observing the divine flame's advancement and transformation through the light screen. It was only until the divine fire had devoured the 9th lightning tribulation that Lung Ruoxue's tensed heart was finally half at ease. However, when she saw that the dark clouds in the sky had not dispersed, she could not help but feel suspicious. Could there still be more lightning tribulations? Just as she was thinking about this, another bolt of lightning fell from the sky and struck the divine flame. Poor little thing. I didn't expect it to have more than 9 bolts of lightning. Looking at the light screen, Green Vessel said with a little sympathy. Most plant-type sprites had 9 heavenly tribulations. However, there were a few more heaven-defying sprites that had more than 9 heavenly tribulations. Therefore, many sprites failed to take form. However, once they succeeded in taking form, their power would be incomparable to that of ordinary sprites. Chapter 1095. The Divine Flame Tribulation. 2. Sister, you must make this little fellow listen to you. If he succeeds in transforming, he won't be suitable for the disheveled old man to fuse with. Qingju said, I know. I won't hurt this little fellow. I'll think of another way for the disheveled old man. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Sister, I don't mean it that way. I mean, if this little guy successfully transforms, I'm afraid he will be a very destructive little thing. If he is not properly restrained, once he causes a big disaster, the heavens will not tolerate his existence. Therefore, you must make him listen to you. Qingju said in a reserved manner. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded. The destructive power of a fire attribute spirit was indeed not something that an ordinary spirit could compare to. As time passed, another 3 days had passed, but the divine fire's tribulation had yet to end. In the past 3 days, the divine flame had been baptized by nearly 30 tribulation lightning bolts. The divine flame had grown from the size of a baby's finger to the size of a baby's fist. The flame was red with a hint of purple, and it was so hot that it had dried up the lava. The surrounding mountains had long been charred black. Just as the divine flame was undergoing its tribulation, Lung Qingtian and the others in the floating cloud city looked at the dark sky not far away. Their hearts could not help but be on tenterhooks. Although they really wanted to go over and take a look, they did not dare to act rashly. Has Miss Ling not returned yet? QiuQiu, who had been reporting for several days, asked without changing his tone. No, I didn't. Fengde replied indifferently, then he buried his head and went back to his work. It's been almost half a month. Why don't we go to the volcano and take a look? QiuQiu suggested. For what? Young Miss will be fine, don't go and add to her troubles. Fengde said unhappily. He was not worried about his lattice safety, but he did not know what the situation was over there, so he could not put his heart at ease. Moreover, according to the first elder, the lightning was very unusual. It seemed like the elves were undergoing a tribulation. However, he had never seen the elves' tribulation before, so he was not too sure. However, he had warned them not to get too close to it in case they were affected. Fengde and the others were clear in their hearts. They knew that the great elder's guest should be close to the mark. Otherwise, the young lady would not have let them leave. However, who would be undergoing the tribulation? QiuQiu was a little depressed. He had good intentions. Why couldn't these people understand? It has been so many days, but Miss Lung has not returned. I wonder how she is doing. Young Master Qi, if you don't have anything else to say, you should take care of your cousin. Don't let her come here and cause a scene. Otherwise, if she annoys me, don't blame me for being ruthless. Fengde warned. These days, QiuQiu's cousin would come over to scold her for no reason. If it weren't for the fact that they cared about the young lady, they wouldn't have allowed her to stay until now. Unfortunately, that woman didn't know that the ball on her neck was only temporarily with her. Continue reading on MIB0XN0VL. Calm, I told her, but she wouldn't listen. QiuQiu said helplessly. His cousin would only think of him when she got into trouble. She would not usually listen to him, so he was helpless. Then lock her up. The great elder said unhappily. He really didn't know how the Qi family had raised their daughter. Even though the Qi family wasn't the main family in the divine mainland, it was still a failure to have raised a daughter like this. All right, he said. Yes, QiuQiu replied. Actually, he had thought of locking his cousin up, but he couldn't stand her making a scene, so he let her do as she pleased. However, now that she had suggested it, and this old man's status was not ordinary, he had no choice but to listen. I say, Qi family brat, you failed as a young master. How can I let a woman ride on my head? The disheveled old man could not help but grumble. QiuQiu was speechless. He was indeed a failure. Every family has its own problems, so don't blame him. The great elder pleaded. The waters of the great clans were deep. Being in a big family, there were many things to worry about. Therefore, he could understand the Qi family's helplessness. I don't blame him. However, if his cousin comes again, or if Shui comes back and finds out about all this, I can't guarantee what kind of ending that cousin of his will have. That girl can't tolerate sand in her eyes. The disheveled old man reminded. If Fengde and the others were not so focused on Shui, they would not have bothered with QiuQiu's cousin, which led to the woman coming to make a scene again and again. Young man from the Qi family, you have to keep an eye on that woman. If anyone from the Qi family has any suspicions, tell them to come and ask me. The first elder thought for a while and decided to shoulder this responsibility for QiuQiu. Thank you for your understanding, first elder. QiuQiu said gratefully. There's no need to thank me. Also, did you forget what I said? Don't call me Great Elder. Right now, I'm just an old man hanging out with a little girl. The Great Elder reminded. If it wasn't necessary, he didn't want to reveal his identity to avoid trouble. Then what should I call you? QiuQiu said nervously. The Great Elder's status was quite high. Even his grandfather, the patriarch, had to be respectful in front of the Great Elder, let alone a junior like him. It should be known that the Great Elder had a wide range of friends in the divine realm. Moreover, he was a great figure of the same generation as the patriarch of the Ning family. Thus, he naturally had to be more respectful. Just call me old man, the Great Elder said after some thought. Although he looked very young on the outside, he had always thought of himself as an old man. Old man is my name, you can change it. The old man immediately protested when he heard that his name was about to be infringed. Then you can call me Uncle Lu. First Elder said after some thought. Uncle Lu, that sounds like the butler's name. When Lu Feng heard this, he couldn't help but laugh wildly. He was deeply speechless about this old man's ability to come up with names. Fortunately, his and his brother's names were not given by this damn old man, otherwise he would be depressed to death. What's wrong with the butler? I'll be this little girl's housekeeper from now on, and all of you have to listen to me because you're now her subordinates. The Great Elder blew at his beard and glared at him. He kept cursing in his heart. This brat didn't even leave him any face in front of outsiders. If he had the chance, he would definitely kill him. Chapter 1096, The Divine Flame Tribulation, 3. QiuQiu, you can call me Uncle Lu from now on. Remember that. I am the little girl's housekeeper. As for the three of them, they are her subordinates. The Great Elder warned. In other words, he was telling them not to reveal their identities. Yes, Uncle Lu. QiuQiu replied helplessly. You can't guess the thoughts of these big shots. Just like that, the first elder, Mo Yen, Lu Feng, and Lu Yu's identities were temporarily confirmed. When Lung Ruoxue returned and found out that she had a housekeeper and 3 subordinates, she was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. Could she afford to use such a high-ranking butler and subordinate? Lung Ruoxue, who was at the volcano, was completely focused on the divine fire tribulation. There were more than 60 lightning bolts now, and the size of the lightning bolts was getting smaller. However, even though she was in space, Lung Ruoxue could feel that the lightning bolts were getting stronger. On the other hand, the divine flame had grown to the size of an adult's fist after being struck by more than 60 lightning tribulations. The color of the flame had turned into a deep purple, and the scorching heat had melted everything around it. Even Lung Ruoxue, who was in the middle of the space, could feel the scorching heat. A few more days passed. The number of lightning bolts reached 98. As the 98th lightning bolt was swallowed by the divine fire, the size of the divine fire increased by a lot. At this time, the flame had completely turned black and purple, and the periphery of the flame was shining with a dazzling light. He looked extremely mysterious and noble. In the bracelet, QiuQiu observed the situation outside and spoke with some worry. Sister, there's only one more tribulation lightning before the divine fire's tribulation ends. However, the last tribulation lightning is also very important. I don't know if the divine fire can withstand it. I can see that the little guy's perseverance is extraordinary. Didn't he survive several dangerous situations? So, we should believe in it. Lung Ruoxue consoled. Even though she was very worried, she was helpless at this moment. She had already done everything she could. Now, she could only rely on the divine flame. I hope so. The 9 heavenly tribulation during the transformation also proves that this divine flame is extraordinary. At least, ever since I gained sentience, I've never seen a fairy undergo the 9 heavenly tribulation during her transformation. QiuQiu sighed. The spirits that transcended the 9 heavenly tribulation could be said to be favored by heaven and earth, but they could also be considered abandoned by heaven and earth. That was because once they successfully transcended the tribulation, they would naturally obtain many benefits. However, once they failed, it would mean that they were abandoned by heaven and earth. This was the law of nature. As Lung Ruoxue and QiuQiu were chatting, the 99th wave of the heavenly tribulation finally descended. What was different from the previous 98 heavenly tribulations was that the previous 98 heavenly tribulations were all lightning strikes with electricity within them. However, this last heavenly tribulation was completely composed of lightning. The lightning that shone with a white light might only be the size of an adult's pinky, but the energy it contained was equivalent to the sum of the previous 98 heavenly tribulations. This made Lung Ruoxue break out in cold sweat for the divine fire. Meanwhile, the divine flame that was completely focused on fighting the last heavenly tribulation still didn't know that someone was worried about it. If it knew, it would definitely be very touched. Because, for tens of thousands of years, it had only been itself, and no other creature had ever worried for it. Basically, all the living beings in this volcano would run away when they saw it. Otherwise, they would be burned to ashes by it. Continue reading on MIB0XN0VL. The 99th heavenly tribulation bolt was extremely stubborn. No matter how hard the divine flame tried, it could not completely merge with it. The battle between the divine flame and the heavenly tribulation continued for 2 days and 2 nights, but there was still no clear winner. However, seeing that the divine flame showed no signs of defeat, Lung Ruoxue finally felt more at ease. It seemed like the first 98 bolts of lightning had greatly increased the power of the divine flame. It was just that he didn't know who would win in the end. 5 days later, the divine fire, which was already exhausted, launched the most fatal attack. This was also the divine flame's final struggle. Success or failure all depended on this. In an instant, half of the sky was burned red by the towering volcano. The small lightning bolt was also enveloped within it. Through the light screen, Lung Ruoxue could see a lightning bolt shuttling back and forth within the huge flames. It was as if it was unwilling to be fused just like that. The white lightning fled in all directions, trying to break out of the divine flame's encirclement. However, the divine flame would not let it escape so easily, because once the last heavenly tribulation succeeded, it would also mean that it had failed to pass the tribulation. In that case, why not fight to the death? In any case, the divine flame was going all out. After a long time, the white lightning trapped in the flames finally lost its fighting spirit and was slowly devoured by the divine flame. The giant flame also shrank until it was the size of a blue ball. When Lung Ruoxue and the demons saw that the divine flame's tribulation had ended, they quickly left their bracelets. However, the divine flame was in the critical stage of its transformation, so they could only watch from afar. They did not dare to get too close to it so as not to disturb it. An hour later, the burning flames had disappeared, and in its place was a fair and tender little baby. The little baby was completely naked, and his little face was unbelievably beautiful. His 2 black grape-like eyes were clear, transparent, and as pure as a spring. The moment Lung Ruoxue saw this little baby who was not even 1 year old, her love for him was overflowing. What an adorable little fellow! Lung Ruoxue picked up the little boy and said happily, "Why were the appearances of these elves so adorable?" "Sister, thank you," the little boy said in a soft voice, a little embarrassed. "What are you thanking me for? It's the result of your own hard work that you're able to transform. I didn't help much." Lung Ruoxue said honestly, "If it wasn't for Big Sister's pill, I wouldn't have succeeded in my transformation." The little boy said with some lingering fear. After transforming, he knew many things that he didn't know before. Hence, only he knew how dangerous the previous heavenly tribulation was. Hence, he was very grateful to Lung Ruoxue. Since you put it that way, then I'll take this credit." Lung Ruoxue laughed. To her, this was as easy as lifting a finger. However, this little fellow had remembered it in his heart. From this, it could be seen that these elves knew how to repay kindness. They were much better than some humans. Chapter 1097. The Divine Flame Tribulation, 4. Little Flame, I told you that there's nothing wrong with following Big Sister. Do you believe me now? QiuQiu, who was lying on Lung Ruoxue's shoulder, said with a hint of pride. Yes, sister. They'll follow you from now on. The little boy quickly echoed. All right, we have a few more kids like you in our family. You won't be lonely anymore. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Hee hee, that's great. Big sister, I'm called Hualing. The little boy said happily. Fire spirit, since you have a name now, I'll save me a lot of trouble. Lung Ruoxue said half-jokingly. However, there were more and more beastie and these little fellows around her, and coming up with a name had indeed become the most difficult thing for her. Fire spirit? Could it be that you, QiuQiu seemed to have thought of something as it couldn't help but widen its round eyes and ask. Yes, sister. I'm not an ordinary divine fire, but I'm not the most powerful divine fire in the world either. I can only be considered the king of fire. The fire spirit explained in a soft voice. He had only learned about this after he had made a breakthrough. Otherwise, he wouldn't have encountered the 9 heavenly tribulation. However, his current inherited memories were very incomplete, and many of them had yet to be fully recovered. Hee shui, you're quite lucky to have met the king of fire. The demon chuckled and teased. Fire spirit, since you're the king of fire, do you know where I can find other divine flames? Lung Ruoxue asked after nodding. Sister, are you looking for the divine fire to fuse with it? The fire spirit asked curiously. He had a familiar feeling towards Lung Ruoxue's fire attribute aura. He was very sure that the fire attribute in his sister's body was an inborn divine flame. Hence, he could not understand why his sister did not need a divine flame at all. Yes, but not for me. It's for a family member of mine. Lung Ruoxue explained. Oh, sister, to tell you the truth, I'm the only divine flame left on this continent. I've already devoured the others. The fire spirit said with some embarrassment. There were ranks among the divine flames. Even when they were unconscious, the higher-ranked divine flames would automatically devour the lower-ranked divine flames. This was also a cultivation method for their flames to improve their strength. It doesn't matter. Since there's no more divine fire on this continent, well, look for it when we reach the divine realm. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Sister, my memory is a mess right now. Let me sort it out and see if there are any other ways to help your family. The fire spirit said after some thought. Okay, then I'll thank you in advance. Lung Ruoxue gently stroked the fire spirit's head as she smiled. It was rare for the little fire spirit to have such a heart. Hence, even if she didn't have any good ideas, she wouldn't blame that little fellow. Continue reading on LIB0XN0VL. Calm, elder sister is too polite. The fire spirit's face was red with embarrassment. Sister, can we leave this place now? At this moment, QiuQiu warned. Yes, it's time to leave. Lung Ruoxue nodded. After staying here for so long, her grandfather and the others were probably getting anxious. Little fire spirit, is there anything else you need here? We're leaving. Lung Ruoxue asked softly. No, there won't be any more volcanoes here in the future. The fire spirit said in a sad voice. After living here for so long, he had quite a bit of feelings for this place. It was his advancement that had destroyed this place. However, now that it had become a reality, there was no point in him being depressed. Little fire spirit, don't be sad. Since you've already transformed, of course you have to look forward. Lung Ruoxue knew what was on the fire spirit's mind and could not help but console it. Sister, let's leave. The fire spirit nodded. With that, Lung Ruoxue carried the fire spirit and returned to their encampment in the floating cloud city with the demon. When Fengde and the rest saw the little child in Lung Ruoxue's arms, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. They thought to themselves, why did the young miss kidnap another elf? She's amazing. They would not be like Lu Feng, stupid enough to think that this child was born by the young miss. However, when the first elder, Mo Yen, and Lu Yu saw the child in Lung Ruoxue's arms, their reactions were similar to Lu Feng's. In comparison, Lu Feng was much calmer. Little girl, whose child is this? Why did you bring him back? First elder would not be as ignorant as Lu Feng to think that the child was Lung Ruoxue's. He knew that it would take a long time for a child to be born. My family. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Little fox, you didn't get another elf, did you? Lu Feng's eyes widened as he guessed speechlessly. This girl's luck was a little too good. It really made people envious. Could he be the fairy that transcended the tribulation? The great elder was experienced and knowledgeable, so he immediately reacted. He was just a little shocked when he saw the little girl carrying a baby back, so he didn't think much about it. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded slightly. What kind of sprite is he? The great elder asked with a face full of curiosity. In his heart, he was also secretly lamenting that this girl's luck was so good that it made people jealous. He is the god fire spirit we have been searching for. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. And her answer really did give everyone, including the great elder, a shock. Even a divine fire had a spirit. What kind of world was this? No one knew that fire could actually produce a spirit, so they were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. Miss, how do you want the disheveled old man to fuse with this child? We can't possibly eat this child, right? Fengde asked curiously, but he felt a chill in his heart. It was so scary. If it were him, he wouldn't be able to eat it. What are you talking about? I'm not interested in children, I don't like them. Seeing the little boy's frightened look, the disheveled old man quickly said, Damn Fengde, look how scared he is of the little boy. Even if he wanted to upgrade his natal flame to a divine flame, he could not bear to lay his hands on a little baby who had finally managed to take human form. They had all seen the heavenly tribulation before, even though it was far away. I was just curious. I didn't really say you could eat him. Fengde said, a little embarrassed. He also knew that his words were a little inappropriate. He really shouldn't have asked this in front of the little doll. Look, the little doll was scared. Chapter 1098. The Divine Flame Tribulation 5. Fire Spirit, don't be afraid. They're just joking. Lung Ruoxue glared at Fengde before consoling him. I'm just asking out of curiosity. Don't be afraid. No one will eat you. Fengde also comforted him. You don't have to worry. I'll think of a way to help this old man advance his flame. If there's no other way, I'll help him find a divine fire. The fire spirit promised. He had remembered what the disheveled old man had said to him just now. Therefore, he had a very good first impression of the old man. You're such a well-behaved and cute little kid. Grandpa thanks you first. Let Grandpa hug you. The disheveled old man was overjoyed to see the little fellow being so considerate and sensible. Seeing the disheveled old man carrying the child in his arms, the other old men were all envious. Not long after, a few of the older old men started fighting for the little fire spirit. Mo Yen and the others asked about the details of Lung Ruoxue and the demon. Lung Ruoxue explained the situation to them in detail, especially the dangers that the little fire spirit faced during its tribulation. After listening to it, everyone started to admire this little doll. After that, Lung Ruoxue inquired about the situation on their side. When Qirui arrived, Lung Ruoxue told him about the volcano's recent situation. However, she didn't reveal the little fire spirit's identity. She only said that the divine fire had failed its tribulation and had disappeared. The volcano had also become a ruin. Qirui pondered for a moment and then led his men to explore the volcano. After verifying Lung Ruoxue's words, he decided to leave with his subordinates. After all, from his point of view, the danger of the volcano had been resolved. Furthermore, there wouldn't be any more volcanic eruptions in the future. He could return to his family to report on his mission. Before he left, Qirui once again invited Lung Ruoxue and the others to visit the Qi family's divine territory. This time, Lung Ruoxue didn't reject him. After all, QiuQiu and Baobao were the two little fellows who were arguing about going to collect debts. In order to satisfy the two little money grubbers' strong demands, they could only make a trip to the Qi family's divine realm. Grandpa Uncle Lu, don't forget to collect the money from the Qi family on our behalf. Before entering the Qi family's main city, QiuQiu and Baobao reminded him in unison. I can't forget. Don't worry. The first elder said helplessly. It seemed that these two little guys were determined to use him as a gun. However, didn't they think that this was a waste of talent? He believed that he could be of even greater use. QiuQiu, who was not far away, heard the conversation between the man and the two beasts. His mouth twitched as he thought to himself, "This time, the Qi family is going to bleed a lot." Sigh. The head elder of the Craftsmen's Guild had personally come to collect the debt. Would the patriarch dare to not pay? Continue reading on LIB0xN0VL. Calm as he was thinking, QiuQiu had already accompanied Lung Ruoxue and the rest into the Qi family's main city in the God domain. The great elder was carrying two cute, furry little beasts in his arms as he walked at the back of the group. The current grand elder was just an unremarkable old man, and the aura on his body was completely restrained. Therefore, if it weren't for the two cute little beasts in his arms, the pedestrians on the street wouldn't even give him a second look. The Qi family's main city was named Qi City. Like the other main cities in the divine realm, Qi City was very famous. The streets were unusually crowded. As they walked, the grand elder, who was at the back of the group, was separated from his group. Standing on a quiet path, the first elder was extremely depressed. He realized that he was lost. So, if this were to spread out, wouldn't they be laughed at by those old farts? Grandpa Uncle Lu, it's not embarrassing to be lost. Don't be sad. The baby consoled her considerately. Exactly. Big sister often gets lost too. In order to comfort the great elder, QiuQiu had sold Lung Ruoxue out without any hesitation. Really? That little girl is also lost? When First Elder heard this, his interest was piqued, and the depression of being lost was greatly diluted. What's the big deal? Who hasn't lost their way before? QiuQiu said disapprovingly. That makes sense, but since we're already lost, let's take a good look around the street. The great elder suggested and began to adapt to the situation. He wasn't in a hurry anyway. After knowing that they had disappeared, the Qi family brat would definitely send people to find them. After saying that, First Elder carried the two cute little beasts, QiuQiu and Bao, and wandered around the street. After QiuQiu brought Lung Ruoxue and the rest to the Qi family courtyard, everyone realized that the great elder was missing. Lung Ruoxue and the rest were not worried, but QiuQiu was. He wasn't worried that something would happen to the great elder council, but he was afraid that someone would offend that old man. Not to mention that no one on the divine mainland could afford to offend that old man. Even in the divine realm, few people would dare to offend him. At the thought of this, QiuQiu quickly sent people to look for her on the streets. In the main hall of the Qi family's courtyard, QiuQiu was sweating profusely as he looked at Lung Ruoxue and the rest who were carefree. He was burning with anxiety. Damn it, they had been searching for an entire afternoon and the people he had sent out had still not found the great elder and the two little beasts. They were so useless. Calm down, you're hot. Come, drink some water. Feng De took a glass of water and handed it to QiuQiu. Aren't you guys worried? QiuQiu asked speechlessly. These people were too calm. What's there to worry about? That old man is much stronger than us. Do we still need to worry about his safety? Feng De asked. You're right, but even if you're not worried, I am. QiuQiu said with a long face. What are you worried about? As long as you don't provoke him, that old man won't cause you any trouble. Feng De promised. The great elder's vengeful personality was too similar to the young miss. Sometimes, he couldn't help but think that the young miss was more like the great elder's granddaughter than Lu Feng, but that was of course impossible. I'm worried that there's someone in the city who doesn't know what's good for him. QiuQiu spoke his mind, and his heart relaxed a lot. Then they can only blame their bad luck. That old man is a vengeful person. Moreover, he will definitely make those who provoke him regret being born in this world. Feng De said with a smirk. I'm afraid he will vent his anger on the Qi clan. QiuQiu whispered. As long as it's not your Qi family's fault, the Grand Elder won't take his anger out on you. However, if someone from the Qi family really did offend the Grand Elder, then your Qi family can only pray for good luck. Feng De said half-jokingly. I'm afraid of this. QiuQiu said gloomily. The majority of the people in Qi City were inextricably linked to the Qi family. Furthermore, the good and bad were mixed together. Hence, this was what he was most worried about. Then I can't help you, Sai. You take care, I'm going to sleep. Feng De patted Qi Rui's shoulder and said sympathetically, it seems like it's not easy to be a young master. Look at how tired Qi Rui is. If he was worried about this and that, he would have gone crazy. After Feng De left, the rest of the people also found excuses to leave the main hall. However, just as Leng Ruoxue and the demon were about to leave, they were stopped by Qi Ru. Miss Leng, you have to help me. I wonder how young Master Qi would like me to help. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Miss Leng and First Elder have been together for quite a long time, so you should be clear about where First Elder will be going, right? Qi Rui probed. I really don't know about that. However, have your people searched the entire city? Leng Ruoxue retorted. Yes, my confidant said that they've searched the entire city, but they didn't find the First Elder and the two little beasts. Qi Rui told the truth. He was anxious because the First Elder was not in any of the inns and shops in the city. This person couldn't have just disappeared into thin air. Have you searched the suburbs? There are prison cells in Qi City, right? I suggest you look for it there as well. Leng Ruoxue said calmly. After she finished speaking, she left the main hall with the demon. The suburbs? A prison cell? Qi Rui mumbled to himself thoughtfully before he quickly ran out. Chapter 1099. How big do you want to play? 1. After Qi Rui left the main hall, he immediately ordered his subordinates to search the outskirts of the city, while he brought some men to Qi Cheng's prison to check. Before entering the cell, Qi Rui first asked the guard if there were any new prisoners today. After receiving a positive answer, his heart sank. Even though the guard said that the person who had been locked up was not an old man, he could not completely relax because the First Elder did not look like an old man. I hope it's not the First Elder, Qi Rui consoled himself. He then asked for the location of the prisoners and went to confirm with his men. When Qi Rui came to the cell door and saw the man sleeping soundly on the recliner through the bars, his heart sank to the bottom. That person was none other than the great elder he had been looking for. Damn it, hurry up and open the cell door. Qi Rui growled in anger. Who did this? To actually dare to lock the Armament Guild's great elder in a cell? You really don't want to live, but even if you want to die, don't drag others in. Young master, we don't have the key. One of his subordinates said with some difficulty. Break the lock. Qi Rui ordered. Yes. The subordinate replied. As he raised his hand and swung his blade, the huge lock of the cell was split into two. Qi Rui hurriedly ran in and stood beside the great elder. He called out softly, Uncle Lu, wake up. However, the head elder only turned over and did not wake up at all. Looking at the great elder who was sleeping soundly, Qi Rui frowned anxiously. However, he didn't dare to wake the great elder up too loudly, so he could only sigh continuously. At this moment, the guards were brought to Qi Rui. Young master, what can I do for you? The guard said carefully. He was puzzled in his heart. Who was this person? He actually asked the young master to come personally. Let me ask you, who put this person in the cell? Qi Rui suppressed his anger and said, It's the third young master. The guard felt the young master's anger and carefully replied. Continue reading on LIB0XN0VL. Calm, what reason? Qi Rui asked with a faint smile. Qi Yang, this is your own death, you can't blame anyone else. The third young master said that this person stole the Yao family's fifth young miss, beast pet. The guard quickly replied. What beast pet? Qi Rui was a little puzzled. Pet beasts couldn't be referring to the two black-hearted little beasts that the great elder had been carrying in his arms, right? No wonder he didn't see the shadow of those two little beasts by the great elder's side. This subordinate does not know. When this person entered, this subordinate did not see any beast pets. The guard replied truthfully. I know, you may leave. Do not tell anyone about this. Qi Rui ordered and immediately ordered his subordinates to invite Leng Ruoxue and the others to the courtyard. However, after waiting for more than 2 hours, he did not see his subordinates invite anyone, so he had no choice but to go personally. When he arrived at the Qi family's courtyard, QiuQiu saw his subordinates standing outside Lung Ruoxu's courtyard. "Why are you guys standing outside?" QiuQiu asked in confusion. "Young master, they said that Miss Lung has already gone to rest and asked us not to disturb her." The subordinate said, somewhat speechless. "Who said that?" QiuQiu looked around but did not see anyone. "We were the ones who said it," Baby, who was guarding the door, said indifferently. "Ah." QiuQiu followed the voice and looked down. He saw a purple fox in disguise. The fox's silver eyes were filled with disdain. QiuQiu was depressed. He was despised by Lung Ruoxu's beastie again. This was not the first time. "I want to look for Miss Lung," QiuQiu said courteously. Despite his disdain, he still had to see Lung Ruoxu. He believed that only Lung Ruoxu could help him with this matter. "I've said it before, my cute master is sleeping. If you have anything to do, please come early tomorrow," Baby said, not giving him any face. "All right then." QiuQiu had no choice but to turn around and leave. He could not afford to offend any of these little beasts. The next day, when Lung Ruoxu and the others came out of the room, they saw QiuQiu pacing back and forth at the entrance of the courtyard before they even stepped out of the courtyard. Baby and the other little beasts were standing side by side at the entrance, blocking his way. "My lovely master." When Baby and the other beastie saw Lung Ruoxu, they immediately pounced on her, allowing QiuQiu to enter the courtyard. "Miss Lung, you're finally awake." QiuQiu heaved a sigh of relief. "Young Master Qi, why are you here so early in the morning? What's the matter?" Lung Ruoxu played dumb. "There's something," QiuQiu said with some difficulty. "If you have something to say, say it." Lung Ruoxu smiled faintly. She knew what he wanted to say, but she could only pretend that she didn't know. "The Great Elder has been locked up in a cell in Qi City." QiuQiu hesitated for a moment before mustering his courage to speak. "What? Who did it?" He was really too bold. He was an idol. He actually did something that I've always wanted to do, but never dared to. Before Lung Ruoxu could reply, Lu Feng could not help but exclaim. Furthermore, it seemed like he was gloating over her misfortune. "Ah." After hearing Lu Feng's words, QiuQiu's cold sweat started to drip down. He never dreamed that Lu Feng would have such a reaction. This was really beyond his expectations. However, he was not in a good mood like Lu Feng. In fact, he was worried to death. "Quickly tell me, who locked up that old man?" "I'm going to ask him for advice. Where did he get the courage to do that?" Lu Feng pulled on QiuQiu's arm and asked anxiously. "He's my third brother." QiuQiu told him the truth. That old man isn't someone who likes to cause trouble. What excuse did he find? Lu Feng mumbled to himself. He couldn't figure it out no matter how he thought about it, and his eyebrows were knitted together. "It's all because of Miss Lung's two little beasts." QiuQiu sighed and said, "Lung Ruoxu's two beastie were too cute and too adorable. There were very few girls who could reject them. Wasn't this the trouble caused by the beastie again? Don't tell me those two little things were robbed again." Lu Feng guessed. Chapter 1100. How big do you want to play? 2. Yes, I didn't see those two little beasts by the Grand Elder's side. QiuQiu said honestly. "Ha! Whoever snatches those two little fellows will be the unlucky one." When Lu Feng heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. "That's great, there's something fun to do now." Which young lady from the Qi family snatched QiuQiu and Baby away again? Mo Yen also asked curiously. With the Great Elder around, the two little beasts were still stolen. This was very interesting. Those two little beasts should be in the hands of the Yao family's fifth young lady. QiuQiu said after some thought. "The fifth young lady of the Yao family? I don't know him." Lung Ruoxu said indifferently. "Miss Lung, please help me get the Great Elder out first." The Grand Elder refused to leave the cell. The old man had woken up before the sun had risen. He had wanted to bring the first elder out, but he had insisted that the Qi family and the Yao family give him justice. He would rather die than leave the cell. What did the Great Elder say? Lung Ruoxu. First elder said that he had never stolen anything in his life, so the Yao and Qi families have to give him an explanation. Qi Rui told Lung Ruoxue the Grand Elder's exact words. In fact, the Grand Elder didn't tell him the details, and he had been guarding the Grand Elder in the cell, so he didn't know much about the truth. Oh! Lung Ruoxue responded softly and did not continue. Miss Leng, come with me to the prison. I'm at my wits' end against the Grand Elder. Qi Rui begged. Sure, but you'll have to wait until we're done with breakfast. Lung Ruoxue chuckled and then called everyone to the dining room to eat. When they arrived at the dining hall, the servants in the courtyard had already prepared breakfast. Lung Ruoxue and the rest sat down and began to eat. However, Qi Rui, who was also sitting at the dining table, seemed to be absent-minded. Lung Ruoxue could not help but smile and comfort him. Young Master Qi, calm down. Since things have already come to this, there's no use in being depressed. However, I can tell you clearly that it's impossible to be kind. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Qi Rui knew that there was no way to deal with the aftermath of this matter. He had already tried his best. Forget it, he didn't care anymore. Some people in the Qi family should be taught a lesson. After thinking it through, Qi Rui no longer felt that the meal was like chewing wax. Continue reading on MIB0XN0VL. Calm after breakfast, everyone went to the prison cell and toured it. After entering the cell, Feng De and the others looked around as if they had entered a grand view garden, and they even talked about it from time to time. Your Qi family's prison cell is pretty clean, but there aren't many prisoners inside. Feng De said with regret. That's right. A few drops of cold sweat dripped from Qi Rui's forehead, not knowing how to answer. I've never stayed in a prison in the divine realm before. Why don't you lock me in here for a few days too? Feng De asked with anticipation. I don't think so. There's nothing fun to do in the prison. Qi Rui said in a hurry. He was so depressed that he didn't know what to do with the first elder. If they were all locked in, the Qi family wouldn't be able to survive in the godly mainland. But I'm very curious. Feng De said, unwilling to give up. We're here, the Grand Elder is inside. When Qi Rui saw that they had already reached the front of the Great Elder's cell, he hurriedly shouted and couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his head. He thought to himself, fortunately we've arrived, it was so dangerous. Lung Ruoxue and the rest stood outside the cell where the Grand Elder was locked up. They saw the Grand Elder eating and drinking well inside the cell. There were 5 to 6 servants serving him. Great Elder, you're really happy to be in prison. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Little girls, you've come to see me. Woo! I finally get to see you. The Great Elder threw away the beast leg in his hand and looked at Lung Ruoxue and the others through the bars with teary eyes. It was as if they had not seen each other for a long time and Lung Ruoxue and the others were here to check on him. Stinky old man, you should reform yourself properly and strive to be released from your sentence as soon as possible. Lu Feng laughed and teased. Qi family brat, lock this stinky brat in here as well. Hell, keep this old man company. The Grand Elder ordered. Qi Rui almost fainted after hearing the first elder's words. Why did you have to involve an outsider like me in your matters? Moreover, he was the Great Elder. The cell door wasn't locked. Old man, do you have to make Lung Ruoxue and the others look so miserable as if they were here to visit? There's no need for him to close it, I'll go in myself. At this time, Lu Feng spoke again. After he finished speaking, he walked directly into the cell. Qi Rui was dumbfounded. What was going on? Little girl, I've let you down. I wasn't able to protect QiuQiu and our baby, and they were actually stolen by someone else. Furthermore, those bastards even accused me first, saying that I stole QiuQiu and our baby from the Yao family's 5th young miss. This old man has lived for so many years, but I've never stolen anyone's things. I didn't expect that I'd lose my integrity at an old age, Wu. I don't want to live anymore. The Great Elder complained tearfully. His words were enough to make those who didn't know the situation feel sympathy. Great Elder, please take care of your body. In this world, evil people are in charge. We, the vulnerable group, should just endure it. Lung Ruoxue sighed and said sympathetically, I wonder how the cute little QiuQiu and the baby are doing. Those two little guys won't be mistreated, right? The first elder said with a worried expression. I am also worried. Lung Ruoxue sighed. However, she was worried that Miss Yao would be abused by QiuQiu and her baby. Ever since they had been captured by the Qi family's young miss, the two little things had been receiving special training from their precious and other beasts. They had learned a lot of new torturous ideas, and he wondered if the Yao family's young miss could take it. Little girl, since you already know my whereabouts, you can go back first. I'm fine, the treatment here isn't bad, and I'm quite used to living here. You don't have to worry about me. You should think of a way to save QiuQiu and the baby first. The great elder didn't even say 2 words before he started to drive them away. Okay, then we'll go back first. Lung Ruoxue agreed. After she finished speaking, she turned around and left with Feng De and the others. Chapter 11:01. How big do you want to play? 3. Seeing this, Qi felt helpless. He could tell that even when Lung Ruoxue and the rest arrived, the first elder had no intention of leaving the cell. It seemed that grandfather had to personally come forward. Thinking of this, he bade the great elder farewell and left the cell. After Qi left the cell, he went straight to the back mountain of the Qi family's main residence. That was the Qi family's forbidden area and also the Qi family's place of seclusion. However, only the family's respected elders were qualified to cultivate there. At this moment, his grandfather, the head of the Qi family, was cultivating in seclusion there. Qi was only allowed to enter after receiving permission from the guards of the forbidden area. Arriving at the door of his grandfather's secret room, Qi said softly, "Grandpa, come in." A man's voice came from the secret room. After getting his grandfather's permission, Qi opened the door of the secret room and walked in. Is there something important? A middle-aged man of about 50 years old sat on a futon and looked at his grandson. Grandfather, Qi clan has offended someone they shouldn't have. Qi said softly. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't do anything about it, he wouldn't have bothered his grandfather. Tell me the matter clearly. What exactly happened? The middle-aged man's brows immediately furrowed when he heard this, and he spoke with some displeasure. Yes. Qi took a deep breath and explained everything that had happened. However, before he could finish, a bang was heard. The table in front of him was smashed by his grandfather. Grandpa! Grandpa! Qi called out softly. Although he had expected that his grandfather would be angry when he found out about this, he did not expect that his usually reserved grandfather would show his anger in front of him. This group of incompetent bastards! The middle-aged man cursed. Grandfather, please don't be angry. It's all because I'm too useless. If it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't solve this matter, I wouldn't have dared to trouble you. Recently, his grandfather had often gone into closed-door cultivation to seek a breakthrough. Although it was not a life-and-death cultivation, he would not bother his grandfather unless it was an important matter. Continue reading on LIB0xN0VL. Calm, how can I blame you for this? What did your uncle say? The middle-aged man asked. Grandpa, I haven't seen uncle yet. Qi said honestly. Where the hell did he go? The middle-aged man roared in anger. Damn it, his son had caused such a big trouble, and he, as the father, was not here. This was outrageous. Fortunately, he had only handed the Qi family to him temporarily. Otherwise, their family would have been defeated by him sooner or later. Grandpa, you'd better ask Uncle yourself where he is. It's not convenient for me to tell you, but I've already sent people to get Big Uncle back. Qi said with some difficulty. Go and gather the elders. I'll be there immediately. The middle-aged man ordered after some thought. All right, he said. Yes, master. Qi replied and left the forbidden area. After informing the elders to gather in the meeting room, Qi went ahead to wait for them. The elders arrived one after another. When they saw Qi, they couldn't help but ask, Young master, the patriarch and the great elders are not here. Why have you gathered us at this time? You'll know in a while, QiuQiu said indifferently. Not long after, the head of the Qi family and the first elder arrived at the meeting room. When the elders saw the family head and first elder who were in closed-door cultivation, they were all puzzled. Weren't these two in closed-door cultivation together? Why did he come out so quickly? Tell the elders about this. The head of the Qi family instructed after taking the main seat. Yes, Grandpa. QiuQiu responded and then told the elders about the matter. When the elders present heard this, their faces all turned pale and they didn't speak for a long time. This matter was really too big for them. After a long while, an elder regained his senses and asked carefully, "Young master, are you sure that person is the head elder of the Craftsmen's Guild? If seventh elder doesn't believe me, you can ask the main family to send someone to confirm it. However, I can tell you that the last time I went to Fiery City to attend Rumai's wedding, it was this first elder who presided over it." QiuQiu said indifferently. But the seventh elder still had some questions, but under the glare of the family head, he didn't dare to continue asking. If the elders still have any doubts about the identity of the great elder, you can just send a tool master to the prison to verify it. At this moment, the Qi family's first elder coughed and said, Right? It should be verified more clearly. The seventh elder quickly chimed in. Seventh elder, if that's the case, then you should go with Master Feng. The first elder ordered. Master Feng was a weaponsmith that the Qi family had hired. Even though he was not as famous as Lung Xiaoyu, he was still considered a reputable weaponsmith in the world of blacksmiths. Yes. Grand Elder, please be at ease. I will definitely investigate that person's identity. The seventh elder promised. However, when the seventh elder investigated, he was as listless as a frost-beaten eggplant. When everyone saw his expression, they all understood that the person's identity was probably real. Are you willing to believe me now? QiuQiu sneered. Young master, you have to think of a way. Otherwise, our Qi clan will be in deep trouble. The seventh elder begged with tears in his eyes. I can't do anything about this. If I had a way, I wouldn't have gone to ask grandfather. QiuQiu's voice was cold. When something happened, he had to think of a solution. Why didn't he think of him when there was something good? Young master, I heard that you returned with the Grand Elder and the others? I believe you two have some friendship? The seventh elder asked. We came back together, but I don't have much of a relationship with them. Don't you think about the position of the Great Elder? Moreover, I can tell you clearly that the Great Elder is here to collect a debt. QiuQiu sneered. What do you mean? The head of the Qi family asked with a face full of question marks. Was there something he didn't know? Grandfather, when Big Uncle arranged for me to go to the floating cloud city to investigate the volcano, Ling also insisted on going with them and even had a conflict with them. The cause was also those two little beasts. QiuQiu explained simply. Chapter 1102. How big do you want to play? 4. Where is Ling? Tell her to get her ass over here. The master of the Qi family was furious. Grandfather is recuperating in her room. QiuQiu said. On the way back to Qi City, Lung Ruoxue and the others had ruthlessly taught that willful cousin of hers a lesson, so Ling had become much more well-behaved. After returning, she had immediately entered her room, not daring to meet anyone. Then tell her to come out. The head of the Qi family roared. Yes, you'll send someone to call him. QiuQiu said hurriedly. Not long after, Qi Ling was brought to the meeting room by the guards. When Qi Ling saw the family head and the seventh elder sitting in the hall, she immediately rushed to them with tears in her eyes and cried, Grandpa, Grandpa, you have to avenge me. QiuQiu actually ganged up with outsiders to bully me. Presumptuous, who gave you the right to call QiuQiu? You should call him young master. The head of the Qi family narrowed his eyes and said unhappily. Normally he would turn a blind eye to Qi Ling's rudeness. However, after they had caused so much trouble, he could no longer indulge these unfilial descendants. Grandfather, I'm your most beloved granddaughter. How can you shout at me? Qi Ling, said in an extremely aggrieved manner, tears flowing down from the corners of her eyes. He's the young master of the Qi family, the future head of the family. The head of the Qi family reminded. Perhaps his past strategies were all wrong. He should not have let Rui or tolerate them. Now it was great. These people were raised to be lawless. Grandpa. Qi Ling looked at the seventh elder for help. However, the seventh elder, who had always doted on her, turned his head. Guards, lock Qi Ling. Without my permission, no one is allowed to let her out. Otherwise, I will punish her with the family law. The Qi family's head angrily ordered, and then the crying Qi Ling was dragged away by the cold-blooded guards. As for whether she still had a chance to be released, the elders present were not in the mood to care. Elders, tell me what we should do about this. After Qi Ling was taken away, the head of the Qi family spoke again. Family head, I think we should ask the great elder to come out of prison first. Otherwise, if this matter gets out, I'm afraid the family head will blame us. An elder reminded. If I could, would I need to ask you? The head of the Qi family sneered. Don't you know that it's easy to invite a god, but difficult to send him away? Did they really think that the head elder of the Armament Guild headquarters was so easy to catch? He actually said that they stole 2 little beasts. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel angry. When the elders heard this, they fell silent again. I'm afraid it'll be difficult to send off the great elder. Continue reading on YB0XN0VL. Personally go to the Yao family and invite the head of the Yao family for me. The head of the Qi family ordered. Since this matter had involved the Yao family, then they shouldn't even think about staying out of it. If this matter couldn't be resolved, he would have to make a scapegoat. Yes, Grandpa. I wonder what reason you'll give? Qi risked. Just say that his precious granddaughter got into trouble and he has to deal with it personally. If he doesn't want to come, you can tell him the details. The head of the Qi family said after some thought. Yes. Qi Rui nodded and left the meeting room. After Qi Rui left, the head of the Qi family and the first elder personally went to the prison to visit the first elder. However, the grand elder clearly did not welcome them. After seeing them, he acted as if he had not seen them. The Qi family head and grand elder could not help but look at each other with bitter smiles. This time, Qi clan had really kicked an iron plate, and it was a 10,000-year profound iron plate. Hello, first elder. I'm the Qi family's head, Qi Yuan. The Qi family had introduced himself. I'm the Qi clan's first elder, Qi Tong. The Qi family's first elder also said, Oh, what can I do for you 2 Qi family kids? The first elder said indifferently, Great elder, this junior was rude and offended you. I hereby apologize to you. Qi Yuan said very sincerely, First elder, I'll also apologize to you. Qi Tong also hurriedly said, You guys didn't bump into me? The first elder blinked his eyes and asked with a face full of question marks. It's my useless grandson who offended you. As his grandfather, I have to apologize to you. Qi Yuan said helplessly. Oh, in fact, they didn't really offend me. They just said that I stole Yao's beast pet and even took my beast pet away. My poor QiuQiu and baby. It's been a day. I wonder if you've been abused by that damn woman or if you've starved. The first elder sighed and muttered to himself. First elder, don't worry. We'll help you find your tamed beasts. Furthermore, we won't let them lose a single hair. Can you please leave this place with us first? Qi Tong coaxed. Can I really lose a single hair? I don't believe you. The great elder laughed evilly, his eyes full of schemes. If they lose even a single hair, I guarantee that the Yao family will compensate them at the same price. What do you think, great elder? Qi Tong asked with a smile. He wasn't stupid. Those 2 beast pets were snatched for the Yao clan's 5th young miss, so if they had to compensate, it would naturally be the Yao clan. So, even if they were to lose a single hair, it was none of their Qi clan's business. I like what you said, but I was locked up by the 3rd young master of your Qi family. This old man has lived for so long, but this is the first time I've been locked up. The first elder laughed. Grand Elder, if you have any requests, please state them. We will definitely satisfy you. The moment Qi Tong heard that there was a chance, he hurriedly said, I don't have any requests. If you really have a request, I'll seem like I'm extorting you. In fact, I'm really innocent. The Great Elder said with a long face. First Elder, what I mean is, we are willing to compensate you for the mental damage you have suffered. Qi Yi hurriedly changed his words. Oh, to be honest, I'm really hurt, sigh. If word of this gets out, what face would I have left in the divine realm? The First Elder said gloomily. Don't worry, Great Elder. I promise that this matter will not be spread. Qi Yuan also said. What's the use of your promise? I haven't even seen your family's third young master yet. I want to confront him face to face. When did he see me steal the Yao family's fifth young beast? The First Elder said with some anger. Chapter 1103, How big do you want to play? 5. First Elder, the third young master has accompanied the young lady of the Yao family out of the city. We've already sent people to look for him. Once we find him, we guarantee that he will be brought to you as soon as possible and be at your disposal. Qi Tong said in a fawning manner. Don't say that, I wouldn't dare to punish the Qi family. I just want to prove my innocence, that's all. The First Elder said with some fear. That's right, we can't afford to offend the Qi and Yao families. At this time, Lu Feng also interjected. May I ask who you are? Qi Tong looked at the young man who was sitting opposite the Great Elder and asked curiously. Lu Feng's back was facing him previously, so he thought that this person was the Great Elder's subordinate. However, after seeing Lu Feng's true face, he didn't dare to think that way anymore. This person's appearance and bearing were definitely that of a person who had been in a high position for a long time. He's just a small fry, not worth mentioning. Lu Feng's tone was cold. Ha! He was Lu Feng. Compared to me, he is indeed a nobody. The Great Elder laughed and exposed Lu Feng's identity. Old man, even if you don't speak, no one will think you're mute. Lu Feng said with a slight dissatisfaction. So what if I said it? Bite me. The First Elder chuckled. Listening to the two of them bickering, Qi Yuan and Qi Tong's foreheads were filled with cold sweat. They thought to themselves that their Qi City's prison cell this time could be recorded in the history books. To think that the Great Elder and Vice President of the Armament Guild were locked up in there. In the entire divine realm, there probably wasn't any prison cell that had such an honor. However, no one would want such an honor. Qi family kids, you can go back now. Don't come and disturb us if there's nothing important. While he and Lu Feng were glaring at each other, First Elder didn't forget to instruct Qi Yuan and Qi Tong. Yes, Great Elder. Sir Lu Feng, we will take our leave first. The two of them looked at each other and said in unison. After Qi Yuan and Qi left, Lu Feng rolled his eyes at First Elder and calmly asked, Old man, how big do you want to play? What do you mean by playing big? I'm not a gambler. The First Elder replied indifferently. After he finished speaking, he even took a bite of the food on the table. Then he spat it out in disgust and said, This dish is really unpalatable. Go back and ask the little girl to make something delicious and send it to me. Old man, you're treating me like an errand boy? Lu Feng's eyes were wide open as he said in dissatisfaction. Isn't it? I thought you were here to run errands for me. The First Elder said as a matter of course. Continue reading on MIB0XN0VL. Calm. Lu Feng was so angry, but he still resigned himself to his fate and left the cell to find food for the picky First Elder. 3 days later, the head of the Yao family arrived in Qi City in a hurry. When he arrived, he did not see the head of the Qi family, so he went straight to the prison cell. However, after being refused entry, he could only go to see Qi Yuan with a bitter face. In the main hall of the Qi family's residence, Qi Yuan sat on the main seat with a straight face, not saying a word. Seeing this, the head of the Yao family could only remain silent. Although he wanted to ask more about this matter, the old fox of the Qi family did not give him the chance. Yao family head, I'm sure you've already met the Great Elder. What are your plans? Qi Tong, who was sitting on QiuQiu's left, asked. I wonder what the Qi family's plans are? Whatever your Qi clan does, our Yao clan will do the same. The head of the Yao family made up his mind. Master Yao, although my Qi family is also responsible for this matter, the main responsibility lies with your Yao family. So, if your Yao family deals with it the same way as us, I'm afraid First Elder won't be satisfied. Qi Tong reminded. Then what do you guys think we should do? How can I please the Great Elder? The head of the Yao family asked helplessly. When he heard the news, he almost fainted from shock. These granddaughters and grandsons were really too troublesome. They had actually provoked the Armament Guild headquarters, Great Elder. What should they do now? If the main family knew about this, they would have to be sacrificed in order to appease the Great Elder. I don't know, but the Great Elder's 2 little beasts are still in the hands of your family's 5th miss. The Great Elder said that if his 2 little beasts are missing a single hair, your Yao family will have to compensate according to the price. The Great Elder said, feigning an imperial edict. Yao family head, I wonder where your family's 5th young lady has taken my disappointing grandson to. It's been 3 days and we haven't even found their shadow. QiuQiu asked angrily. If they couldn't find the Yao family's 5th young lady, it was the same as not being able to find the 2 little beasts. He was very afraid that the Yao family's young lady would play with the 2 little beasts, which were said to have no attack power, to death. If that happened, wouldn't the Great Elder have to fight them to the death? Don't worry, Qi family head. I've also sent people to look for him. I believe they'll find him very soon. The head of the Yao family said with a smile. How can I not be anxious? I've heard the subordinates of those 2 little beasts say that besides being cute, they don't attack at all. Your family's daughter's hands are neither light nor heavy. If you accidentally kill those 2 little beasts, can you bear the anger of the Great Elder? QiuQiu questioned. He felt embarrassed when he thought about this. She was the daughter of the Yao family, after all. She could get any beast pet she wanted. If they had to rob others, then so be it. And she still had to accuse others of stealing from her. What the hell is this? AI. Apart from sighing, the head of the Yao family didn't know what else to say. In contrast to the tense atmosphere in the Yao and Qi clan, Leng Ruoxue and the rest were very relaxed in the courtyard. After Qi Rui invited the head of the Yao family back, he went to the courtyard to look for Leng Ruoxue and the others. However, when he saw Leng Ruoxue and the others chatting and laughing with ease, not looking worried at all, he couldn't help but feel ashamed. Looking at the quality of their hearts, and then looking at himself, he wanted to find a hole to hide in. You're back. Leng Ruoxue greeted Qi Rui indifferently when she saw him. Yes, I haven't found QiuQiu and the baby. Qi Rui said, a little embarrassed. He was still a little worried about the safety of the 2 little beasts. After all, the 2 little fellows did not attack. I know, Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly. She also missed QiuQiu and the baby a little. It was time for them to come back. Miss Leng, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect such a thing to happen when I invited you to Qi City. Qi Rui said apologetically. There's no need to apologize. Although QiuQiu and Bao Bao have been captured, it's still uncertain who will be the unlucky one. Leng Ruoxue replied nonchalantly. Actually, she had been keeping in contact with the 2 little fellows for the past few days. She knew that the 2 little things were having a lot of fun. Naturally, there was nothing to worry about. Her beastie wasn't that easy to snatch. If she didn't make them pay a painful price, how could those people remember? When Qi Rui heard Leng Ruoxue's confident words, he had no choice but to swallow all his apologetic feelings. It was only a few days later, when he saw Qi Yang and the 5th young lady of the Yao family, that he completely believed Leng Ruoxue's words. At the same time, in a barren mountain not far from Qi City, 2 small beasts, one yellow and one black, were jumping and shuttling through the forest. Behind them were dozens of people. The 2 little beasts ran and stopped, occasionally turning back to look. Stop! You 2 little bastards, come back! A woman's shrill cry rang out from the desolate mountain forest, immediately scaring the timid birds and beasts away. Shoo! Keep your voice down, you're scaring the beasts. Besides, we're not beasts, The beasts are the people who are chasing us, hee hee. The baby turned around and said with a smirk on her face. Her little mouth even twitched arrogantly. Baby brother, don't talk nonsense with them. I'm tired from running too, let's take a rest. QiuQiu said, panting. All right, he said. The baby nodded and the two little guys sat down on the spot. They're tired. Catch them. The woman ordered loudly. Yes. Yes, the subordinate replied and immediately surrounded the two little beasts who were resting. However, they knew that these two little beasts were very cunning, so they were very cautious and raised their vigilance. Calm down, relax. We won't run anymore. QiuQiu chuckled when it saw the guards acting as if they were facing a great enemy. You two little bastards, how dare you run away? Watch how I teach you a lesson. The woman stood in front of her baby and QiuQiu and shouted angrily. In order to chase them, her legs were about to break from all the running. She had never run so far before. She was so angry. We won't run anymore. Well, be good, please spare us. You little bastard. The baby begged with tears in her eyes. Up. We won't run anymore. QiuQiu also hurriedly chimed in. That pitiful little appearance could really make one's heart ache. If you dare to run again, it'll break your legs. The woman couldn't help but say with a smug tone after seeing the two little beasts admit defeat. We're not running. QiuQiu and Bao looked at each other and laughed. They promised in unison, hee hee. Of course, they wouldn't run anymore. The game had just begun. Chapter 1104, You've lost a lot of fur. 1. Lock them up in the prison, let's see if they still dare to run. The young woman ordered her subordinates. Don't throw us in jail. We promise to be good and not run. QiuQiu pitifully begged. Yes, yes, I can also guarantee that. The baby raised its little paw and made a vow. A cunning light flashed in its eyes. All right then. From now on, you have to perform well. If you make this young lady happy, this young lady will not lack your meat. The young woman said with satisfaction. Ah. The group of subordinates looked at their young miss with strange gazes. They thought to themselves, did young miss take the wrong medicine? He actually let go of these two little beasts so easily. It was really too inconceivable. This wasn't like the young miss. However, they were even more surprised. In the next few days, the young woman would grant all the requests of the two little beasts. She was just short of worshipping them like they were her ancestors, causing all her subordinates to complain. Because these two little beasts had too many requests, they were so tormented that they were about to fall apart. I want to eat barbecued meat. I want to eat grilled fish. This meat isn't cooked. This fish is overcooked. QiuQiu and Bao looked at the subordinates who were busy spinning around like a top. They were extremely picky and kept finding fault with them as they prepared food for them. Little ancestor, this fish and meat are just right. You'll know when you eat it. One of his subordinates said with a sad face. We don't need to eat to know that it's definitely not good. Feed the pigs all the food you've made. We don't care. Bao said in disdain. This subordinate was depressed. He was supposed to feed the pigs with the food he had prepared, but where did the pigs come from? Continue reading on LIB0XN0VL. Calm, however, in the blink of an eye, he was dumbfounded because he really saw boar beasts. And it was not just one, but a group. The herd of boar beasts swarmed over from a distance. For a moment, dust flew everywhere, making it difficult for them to open their eyes. By the time they dared to open their eyes, the boar beasts had already destroyed all the food they had prepared and disappeared without a trace. This group of swine beasts had completely verified the meaning of the saying, come without a trace, leave without a trace. Everyone present was completely dumbfounded. Where's the food? You bunch of good-for-nothings, can't even look after some food. When the young woman saw that their food was all gone, she couldn't help but roar in anger. Was it easy to find some food in this barren mountain? He actually didn't look after her properly. She was really angry. Miss, the soil was too big just now. We couldn't open our eyes. One of his subordinates explained in a low voice. You still dare to talk back to me? As punishment, you're not allowed to eat for the entire day. The young woman said angrily. Man, don't be angry. I have some food here. You can have it. QiuQiu took out a piece of dried meat from his storage ring and handed it to the young woman. Yao Man. I'm not eating. This thing is so hard, how can I eat it? What are you guys doing? Hurry up and go hunting. Yao Man ordered her subordinates. Yes. The subordinates replied and immediately went hunting. However, half a day had passed, and not a single one of her subordinates had returned. Seeing this, Yao Man flew into a rage again. Damn it, where the hell did they go? Are you trying to starve me to death? Yao Man complained angrily. Man, don't worry. I think it's not easy to find the prey in this mountain. That's why they've been away for so long. QiuQiu consoled in a soft voice. Not easy to find? Then where did the boar beasts come from? The thought of it made Yao Man even angrier. That, QiuQiu was at a loss for words. He couldn't figure out where the boar beasts had come from. What's that sound? Suddenly, there was a buzzing. The voice came from afar, and Yao Man immediately became alert. However, her reaction was still too slow. Moreover, the owner of the voice was already very close when she spoke. Tens of thousands of densely packed bees were swarming toward the two of them. Arg! Get lost! Get lost! Get away from me! Yao Man shrieked as she tried to dodge the swarm of bees, but no matter how hard she tried, she was always surrounded by the swarm of bees, and the number of bees was only increasing. Not only her, QiuQiu was also surrounded by countless bees, and when the bees gradually dispersed, the two of them had countless bumps of different sizes on their faces and arms, causing them to feel both pain and itch. When the two of them saw this, they quickly took out an antidote and put it in their mouths. However, it only slightly relieved the itch and pain. Why are you two little bastards fine? Yao Man accidentally saw QiuQiu and the baby watching them and couldn't help but be furious. We're too small, they didn't notice. Bao laughed evilly. Oh. I'm leaving for a while, Yao Man said, not suspecting him. After she finished speaking, she hurriedly went into the tent. However, Baby and QiuQiu didn't need to guess to know what she was doing. After a long time, a scream suddenly came from the tent. Arg! Help me! Yao Man's voice reached the ears of the man and the two beasts. QiuQiu immediately ran into the tent when he heard it, but then there was another pa. The sound of a slap. When QiuQiu and the baby heard this, they instantly covered their little mouths and laughed secretly. After that, there were a few more bang sounds. However, this time, it was as if QiuQiu and the baby didn't hear anything. They went into their small tents and went to sleep. The next day, when QiuQiu and Yao Man came out of the tent, both of them didn't look too good. Seeing this, QiuQiu and Bao immediately put on an innocent look and said with a little resentment, "Why did you guys go in for so long? We're all going to starve to death." "They're not back yet?" Yao Man asked awkwardly. She was obviously referring to her subordinates. "No, I didn't. There's only the four of us here now, so go find us some food." The baby instructed. "Little bastard, you dare to order me around?" Yao Man was a little angry. She could pretend that she didn't see how these two little bastards tortured her subordinates, but she couldn't order them around. Chapter 1105. You've lost a lot of fur, too. If you guys don't want to go, do you want us to go? With our small arms and legs, can we even catch any prey? Bao said matter-of-factly. Man, he'll go. You can rest here. QiuQiu said considerately. After he finished speaking, he prepared to leave the camp. However, before he left, he was so angered by QiuQiu's words of concern that he almost vomited blood. "Big brother, you have to be careful. Don't go and never return like those people." QiuQiu reminded him in an extremely pure manner. QiuQiu glared fiercely at QiuQiu for a few seconds, then turned around and left in a huff. As he left, he kept consoling himself, "Don't be calculative with a little beast, that's beneath your dignity." QiuQiu didn't return even at night, So QiuQiu and Bao Bao couldn't help but ask Yao Man Man worriedly, "New master. Then does Big Brother not want you anymore? Look, he has been gone for so long and still hasn't returned. They must have abandoned you. He would dare." When Yao Man Man heard this, the anger in her heart started to burst out. She thought for a moment and said to the two little beasts, "You too, come with me to find them." "All right. I love finding people," the two little beasts said happily. Then, they jumped onto Yao Man Man's shoulders and followed her to look for the person. After searching for 2 days, Yao Man Man was so hungry that she had even finished eating the dry rations that she despised the most before she finally found Qi Yang's traces in a dark cave. By now, Qi Yang was so famished that he could no longer differentiate north from south. "Qi Yang, get up here and die." Standing at the entrance of the cave, Yao Man Man ordered. "Man Man, I can't go up. Give me a hand." Qi Yang said weakly, but his heart was filled with hatred. "Damn stupid woman, if I could go up by myself, I would have gone up a long time ago. Would he have waited until now? Wait here, I'm going to find something." With that, Yao Man Man started looking around for a stronger vine to pull Qi Yang up, but she couldn't find a single one that was slightly thicker. "Man Man, haven't you found her yet?" Qi Yang, who had been waiting at the bottom of the cave for too long, couldn't help but ask. "No, the surrounding vines can't withstand your weight," Yao Man Man said honestly. Continue reading on MIB0XN0VL. "Calm, new master, you can use your whip," QiuQiu reminded. "I'll try." Only then did Yao Man Man remember that she still had a whip. She pulled it out from her waist and swung it at the cave. However, the cave was very deep, and Qi Yang couldn't reach it. "New master, your belt should be long enough to connect to the whip," Bao Bao suggested. "Yes." Yao Man Man took off her belt obediently and swung the whip down again. However, even though it was long enough, not only did she not manage to pull Qi Yang up, she was even pulled down by his weight. "Qi Yang, you idiot!" Yao Man Man, who had been dragged into the water, roared from the bottom of the hole, which made QiuQiu and the baby burst into laughter. "You two little bastards, stop laughing." Hearing the ear-piercing laughter, Yao Man Man's anger shot up to the top of her head. However, her words made the two little fellows laugh even more heartily. "Haha. This is so funny." Bao Bao and QiuQiu laughed and rolled on the ground. Their little paws even naughtily through the soil around the cave into the cave. At this moment, a huge figure stood in front of QiuQiu and its baby. Then, it cooperatively used its large claws to throw the soil into the hole. "Arg! Damn it, stop right now." Yao Man Man was caught off guard and was hit on the head by a large rock that was thrown from outside the cave. Blood immediately flowed down her forehead. "Boss, should we stop?" the huge figure asked. "Of course not. Continue," Bao Bao said with a smile and looked at her new little brother with great satisfaction. This bear is not bad. He carried out his orders very well." "All right." The giant bear grinned and said happily. Its paws, which were like small mountains, kept throwing the soil around the cave into it. "Don't throw it away anymore, I'm begging you." After a long time, a pleading voice came from the hole. At this time, QiuQiu and Bao Bao looked down curiously and saw that Qi Yang and Yao Man Man had been buried up to their necks. The soil that had buried them was thick and sticky. It was now almost sticking to their bodies and sticking to them. "Didn't you say that you wanted to die on the same day, same month, and same year? I want to help you." Bao Bao laughed evilly. "Damn it, how did you know? How dare you eavesdrop on our conversation?" Qi Yang roared in anger, because these were the words he had said last night. "Tisk, do I even need to eavesdrop? You guys were talking so loudly, I'm afraid all the living creatures in the mountain heard you," Bao Bao said with a hint of mockery. "Ooh," Qi Yang was furious. Damn it, he had actually been angered to the point of speechlessness by a little beast. This really hurt his self-esteem. "Please think of a way to save us." Surprisingly, Yao Man Man didn't get angry. Instead, she started to plead. "It's not impossible to save you, but what benefits can we get?" The baby looked up at the sky and asked calmly. "I am the 5th young lady of the Yao family. I can give you anything you want." Yao Man Man said hurriedly, but she couldn't help but curse in her heart. Damn you little bastards, I'll deal with you guys when I get out. As she cursed, she didn't forget to give Qi a look. Yes, I am the third young master of the Qi clan. I can give you whatever you want. As long as you save us, everything can be discussed. Qi took a deep breath and coaxed. I see. All right then. Bao Bao pretended to be deep in thought and nodded. She laughed in her heart. These two idiots. Did they really think that it was so easy to deceive? Then, it gave its newly adopted little brother bear a look. Little brother bear understood and stretched out its long arm, pulling out 2 radishes from the ground. As soon as the 2 radishes, Yao Man Man and Qi landed on the ground, they wanted to take revenge even before they could see the situation in front of them. However, they were knocked out by little brother Xiong with a punch each. Chapter 1106. You've lost a lot of fur. 3. When they woke up, they found themselves tied up to an extremely thick tree trunk. In front of them, other than QiuQiu and their baby, there was also a 2-meter-tall brown bear staring at them with a pair of big bell-like eyes. What do you want? Don't mess around. I'm the young lady of the Yao family. Yao Man Man threatened, a little scared. I don't know if you're really stupid or just faking it. In this situation, you still dare to threaten us. Little brother bear, let your friends come and teach them a lesson. The baby pouted and ordered. Yes, boss. Little brother bear then blew a loud whistle. Not long after, the buzz was heard. The voice rang out once more, and Qi and Yao Man Man's expressions changed drastically. At this moment, no matter how stupid they were, they knew that the swarm of bees yesterday was with Bao Bao and QiuQiu. However, before they could say anything, they were surrounded by the bees. After a while, the swarm of bees disappeared, and Yao Man Man and Qi were once again covered in bumps of different sizes and shapes. Bao Bao looked at the bee colony's masterpiece with satisfaction and asked with a faint smile, Do you want to have a taste of being bitten by venomous snakes and insects? No, let us go. Yao Man Man said painfully. Her entire body and face were extremely itchy. Although she wanted to scratch it, she was tied up and couldn't move at all. She could only rub her head against the tree, but that didn't solve the problem. Qi Yang's condition was not much better than hers. Let you go? In your dreams. Bao Bao pouted and said in disdain. Little brother bear, do you want to take in 2 little brothers? The baby asked again with a smirk. Boss, what do you mean? Little brother bear's face was full of question marks. Why don't you take them in as your servants? Bao Bao suggested. Servant? I don't want to. Boss, to be honest, I despise them. Little brother bear said honestly. What could he do then? Why don't you ask the queen bee to take them in as servants? The baby asked after thinking for a while. Continue reading on YB0xN0VL. The queen bee also disdains them. I think those poisonous insects quite like them. However, the level of those poisonous insects is too low, so they can't take in servants. Little brother bear said very seriously. So they won't be able to give it out? The baby was in a difficult position, and their conversation made Yao Man Man and Qi faint from anger. When the 2 of them woke up again, they were no longer tied to the tree. However, the 2 of them were completely exhausted and had no strength left in their bodies. They couldn't run even if they wanted to, and Baby and QiuQiu naturally treated the 2 of them as servants and ordered them around. In less than a day, Yao Man Man and Qi had been tormented to the point that they were lying on the ground and refused to get up. It was only when the 2 little beasts received Lung Ruox's voice transmission that their suffering was finally over. After that, QiuQiu and Baby Su ordered Qi and Yao Man Man to make a simple recliner. Then, the 2 of them carried it back with little brother Xiong supervising them the entire way. The 2 of them and the 3 beasts returned home. When Qi and the Yao clan's 5th young lady appeared at the city gates in tattered clothes, the news of their return was immediately sent to the Qi clan's main residence. After the Qi clan and Yao clan received the news, they headed straight for the city gates. Lung Ruoxue and the rest naturally received the news from QiuQiu and knew that they had returned. They also headed in the direction of the city gates. When the three groups of people arrived at the city gates and saw Qi and the Yao family's fifth young miss, their eyes and mouths were all wide open in disbelief. Were the two beggars in front of him really Qi and the fifth young miss of the Yao family? The Qi clan and Yao clan members mused. At this moment, Qi and the Yao clan's fifth young lattice clothes were in tatters, and their exposed skin was covered in scars. Their faces were red and blue, their eyes were swollen to the point where only a slit was left, and their lips were swollen like two sausages. If it were not for the identity medallions on their bodies, no one would have believed that these two were the Qi clan's third young master and the Yao clan's fifth young lady. On the chairs they were carrying, there were two cute furry little beasts, one black and one yellow. The two little beasts' fur was smooth and soft, and they shone dazzlingly under the sun. At this time, the two little beasts' eyes were half closed, clearly enjoying the warmth of the sun. There was also a giant bear that was more than 2 meters tall, guarding the two little beasts like a guardian. After discovering Leng Ruoxue, the two little beasts pounced into her arms like two bolts of lightning. They kept on rubbing against each other, and their intimacy made everyone envious. "Sister, we miss you so much. It's all because of these two bad guys that took us away and caused us to be separated. Sister, you must torture them to death. Otherwise, it'll be hard to dispel the hatred in our hearts." QiuQiu and Baobao said the words that they had discussed earlier in unison in an indignant tone. When the Qi clan and Yao clan members heard the two little beasts' words, they looked at Qi and the fifth young lady of the Yao clan and wisely chose to remain silent. However, all of them were silently thinking to themselves that even Qi and the fifth young lady of the Yao family were in such a state, it still wasn't enough to dispel the hatred in their hearts. However, none of them dared to say this out loud, in case they were caught in the crossfire. That would not be worth it. Patriarchs, I'm sure you'll give us a satisfactory explanation. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile that was not a smile. After she finished speaking, she turned around and left with Feng De and the rest. After Leng Ruoxue and the rest left, they did not return to the courtyard. Instead, they went straight to the prison in Qi City. Qi and Yao Man were brought back to their respective families. In the prison cell, when the great elder saw the two little beasts that he had lost and found again, he was so moved that tears filled his eyes. He tightly hugged the two naughty little fellows and did not speak for a long time. When everyone saw this scene, they were in disbelief. Wasn't this great elder a little too emotional? "You two little rascals, you've made me worried to death." The great elder grumbled in a pampering manner. Although he knew about the two little fellows' plan, he was still worried about their safety. If it wasn't for the little girl's calm composure, he would have left the cell to look for them. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.